Well, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. And yes, Nigeria, congratulations. Now, I know that sounds very strange in a week like this with tensions high and security stories filling every single corner of the news cycle. But if you stay with me till the end, I bet you that I'll make you understand why that greeting actually matters even now. Now, since the moment United States President Donald Trump redesignated Nigeria as a country of concern, suggesting that Christians here are facing targeted violence, something shifted. I don't know if you've seen it, but something shifted, not just in government cycles, but in the media space. Headlines multiplied. Reports that might have gone unnoticed suddenly found their way to a louder megaphone. And many Nigerians are asking a very important question. Has the frequency of attacks increased, or are we simply reporting them more? Well, that's a fair question. And it matters in a period where every single story feels like it's being pulled into one narrative. So let's look at what has happened the past 1 week. We had the Kwara church attack. Tragic, frightening, and deeply unsettling. People were killed, families were shaken, schools even shut down in response. Naturally, many people tried to place it directly inside the broader conversation about religious targeting. But that same week, last week, we saw something different, which complicates the picture. The Kebbi schoolgirls kidnapping. 25 girls taken, a staff member killed. No church setting, no mosque setting, no religious theme at the center of it. Just raw insecurity created by criminals motivated by money, maybe leverage, or even the weakness of our security architecture. So 2 attacks, both painful, both scary, both real, but not the same at all. One happened in a religious environment, one happened with no religious elements at all. It becomes harder to argue that only one group is suffering then. Every week, every community seems to face its own share of danger, whether Christian or Muslim or neither. Now, this does not erase the pain of anyone. Let's get that right. It simply reminds us that Nigeria's security is a complex national problem, not a single storyline. Then we can consider the role of the United States. Their inquiry into events in Nigeria has generated reactions from both sides, from those who believe Christians are under organized attack and those who believe the framing is too narrow. So one voice online quoted by Oge Onuboku, senior fellow and director of the Africa programs at CSIS, she made a point worth repeating. She said, Nigeria's insecurity often affects people based on location, poverty, weak policing, and criminal opportunity, not purely religious identity. Let's remember that. Her insight highlights the complexity of the issue. Yes, religion can be a factor in some incidents, but it's not the only factor, and it's not always the driving force. Still, however, it is fair to say that some incidents do fit that genocide narrative on the surface, while others directly contradict it. And that tension is exactly why we must stay calm and be honest about what we know and what we are still trying to understand. So the big question is, where does all this leave us? Well, strangely, it leaves us with something Nigeria has not had in a long time. Genuine attention in the form of international, national, and policy attention. For the very first time in a very long time, Nigerians have spent a full week talking about insecurity without turning it into political campaign material. No election calculations, no party against party, just the country forced to look inward and outward at the same time, which is a very interesting place to be. And that brings me back to the beginning. Congratulations, Nigeria. Not because things are good, because obviously they aren't, but because for once, we paused the usual noise. For once, our leaders are beginning to be reminded loudly that the world is watching and that protecting Nigerians is not a favor, it's actually their duty. If all this global attention leads to stronger action, clearer communication, and better protection for Nigerians, whether Christian or Muslim or otherwise, then maybe this very difficult week gone past will push us in the right direction. So, once again, let's continue to hope that after now, we continue to see effort, not just from outside of Nigeria, but especially from within, with those that we have entrusted with our protection. Once again, I say welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and of course, I am not alone. Today, we have the delectable Queen Celestine. Queen, hi, how are you?
Morning, Mazino. How are you?
I'm grand. I'm good. Are you ready for another weekend of grand show?
I am, and it was an amazing monologue. I like the fact that you pointed out that this is not just, the attention is now on Nigeria. You know, it's been a while that we focused on Nigeria to see what's happening. And it's getting closer and closer. It's now in Kwara. Kwara to Lagos is not that far.
Right? I know.
So we hope that things will change.
Indeed. How about I come over and let's talk more about this. Once again, to our audience, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so that was an amazing monologue by Mazino, of course, to start the day. Plenty to think about there. Now, let's take a quick look at what we have for you on Breakfast Extra this Saturday. First up, a big report, a landmark ruling from the Federal High Court that has seen IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu sentenced to life imprisonment. Joshua Imarayi was on ground to give us, the details, and later we'll bring in experts to discuss the wider political, social, and legal implications. And next, of course, we turn to the ongoing wave of insecurity across the North Central and Northwest. This week alone, there have been abductions in Kebbi, Kwara, and Nasarawa affecting both children and adults. Our correspondents have been on the ground as well to speak to communities and unpack what these attacks mean for the affected regions and for Nigeria's security landscape as a whole. Then in our extra special, it's World TV Day 2025. We'll explore the role of television as a tool for democracy and how it has shaped public opinion, held leaders accountable, and guided national conversations. And of course, finally, in Focus Africa, we'll look at the G20 summit where African leaders meet amid global uncertainty, and what practical outcomes we can expect in the months ahead. So plenty to cover, plenty to unpack, plenty to discuss, and let's get started.
Yes, indeed. Let's get started. What a week, first off, I must say. Just before we take the dailies, it was a very interesting week for anybody who gathers news, because it was draining. I bet you felt it as well. It was rather draining to see all that bad information come in about the kidnappings, the killings in different states.
Yes.
And how it all of a sudden seems like it's multiplied. Are we reporting it more, like I asked inside of the prologue, or does it seem to be increasing? Those are very big questions. But it happens when you have attention. It's called the blue car syndrome.
Right.
On your way back home today, notice how many blue cars you're going to see on the road, because I've said this.
Right.
So if you put that in a grander scheme of things, when you talk about something, you begin to take note of it more and see more or frequently.
I agree with you, because we talked about when this whole tweet of Christian genocide came about, or we saw where people talked about it's been happening. We've seen these things happen in Jos and different states, Benue, and a lot of people are scared of traveling on the road, which is supposed to be beautiful, going to Abuja. But because of the insecurity, and a lot of people are like, oh, just one tweet, and then people can actually see what we're going through. And you were right when you mentioned, or rather, just saying that it's getting closer.
Yeah, it is.
It is getting closer, and why it's happening so much. It's just, we just hope that, you know, it gets
Hope is
fixed.
all we have left.
This week has just been so draining.
It has
so
been.
draining and
Well,
sad.
it doesn't mean that other things weren't happening. A lot of things were happening, especially even outside of Nigeria,
Yep.
but here in Africa.
Yes.
In Africa, the G20 summit this year arrives at a time of deep global uncertainty. Conflicts are reshaping alliances, economies are under pressure, and the balance of power is shifting in unpredictable ways. In the middle of all of this, African leaders stepped into the room with a clearer voice and stronger expectations than ever before. The conversation is no longer about Africa waiting to be invited. It is now about Africa demanding a seat, setting an agenda, and pushing for global economic reforms that reflect the realities of the continent. From financial restructuring to climate financing, Africa's presence at the G20 carried a weight the world could not ignore.
Of course, joining us, News Central correspondent Bongani Sisiba and Israel Iferbo, who have been following development closely. And apparently we just have Bongani this morning. Good morning, Bongani. Thank you for, you know, reporting. Can you give us an update of what's happening there and what stood out for you, the way African leaders have positioned themselves at this year's summit?
Okay, I think she's still trying to set up that. I think I heard her there in the background. Maybe we might have a bit of a connection issue there. But it's a very interesting G20, this, because, well, one of the biggest world powers isn't present. And this seems to be shifting decisions or shifting opinion within. America decides to sit this one out. And the reason, well, this will not surprise you. This is because, just as Prom said, from early this year, or was it late last year, they still have that suggestion that the black authorities have not been fair to white farmers in South Africa. And hence, because of that, they will not be at the G20. It complicates a lot of things because they're supposed to be handed over the chairmanship to the US. But, you know, not just that, but America is also still dictating what has to go on inside of the G20 when it comes to decisions that must be made. And they're telling other G20 countries not to make decisions that would include, well, that would in some way complicate their relationships with America, which is a very strange place to be. It seems like they want to scuttle the G20 summit. Why? Well, hey, I don't know if it's, I don't want to say. I don't want to say, I don't want personal declarations to come in here. But it's a very interesting thing to see, and we're hoping that there would be, well, at least an explanation to the drama that we have seen. But I am told that Bongani has rejoined us. Bongani, good morning once again. Thank you for joining. Bongani would like to know any update from the G20 summit, as we are hearing from here in Nigeria. You and Israel are over there. So give us details. What stood out the way, well, African leaders have positioned themselves this year?
A very good afternoon, a morning rather, Mazino, to you. It's a hive of activity here as we have seen delegates starting to trickle in here at the Nasarawa Center. We have also seen our presidents also coming in yesterday and other delegations also coming through. But if I could ask my colleague Sibonelo Mkhasibe just to pan around and show you the media that is here. It's full to capacity as media are here, showing that it's a very big event that is happening in South Africa now. Looking at the G20 groups, we know that the members of the G20, most of them are here, and their presidents also are here. So the meeting will take place over the 2 days, starting from today and tomorrow here at Nasarawa. And the founding members of the G20, that includes Canada, Australia, Brazil, Germany, among others. We have seen representatives from these countries that have jetted in South Africa. But despite the drama over how South Africa is going to hand over this presidency to the US, we know that last minute the US said that it's going to bring in someone, a representative rather, from the embassy to come on the last day when the presentations will be done. We still know that President Donald Trump said he's not coming. He boycotted this meeting. But otherwise, they are sending at least the delegation from the embassy just to come in and represent them. But also we saw the Nigerian delegation also coming through yesterday, though we understand that President Tinubu couldn't join this meeting, but he sent a delegation. And also President Cyril Ramaphosa had several bilateral meetings with different delegation from different countries. Yesterday we also understand that he had a dinner with the presidents from different countries. But my colleague Israel is here also just to speak to us about his observations so far here at the G20 summit. Israel, good morning. And we are here now, the day has come. Absolutely. The delegation, we saw the delegation. If I could also ask my camera guy to show the screen, we are seeing the leaders that are just coming to the G20 with Vice President, that is Paul Mashatile, greeting the delegates. If I can see well on the screen, it should be Turkey president, if I'm not mistaken. But that's Ronald Lamola, that is the international relations minister. Israel, so far, what has been your observation?
I mean, so it's huge, and the momentum is building. It's been building for days and weeks now, and from yesterday up until today, the delegates started arriving, and you can feel the tension in the air of what these leaders will be coming up with today. Are they going to have a consensus? Will there be a document that will be released at the end of this session? Because we're having two sessions today, discussing quite a number of issues. So we're just expecting them to have a consensus, look at the issues, and most critically, how it will impact on the people of Africa. And that's why President Ramaphosa did say that he will be taking Africa's voice into the G20 summit. So we're hoping that they will come up with something concrete that will benefit Africa and Africans, and indeed those that have been underrepresented, that are underserved. Basically, the issues of debt relief, the issues of climate change, very, very key. Indeed, yesterday, Antonio Guterres did say that there is a special board for debt relief, but they're not working fast enough. They need to move really fast.
Thank you so much, Israel, taking us through some of the discussions that will be here. But the most important thing to note is the tiff between South Africa and US. We saw a statement, or rather, we saw the spokesperson of the US, the White House, Caroline Levitt, accusing President Cyril Ramaphosa of running his mouth. That is, according to her word, that President Cyril Ramaphosa is running his mouth because he said that if US is not here, they are going to just hand over to the chair that will be representing the US. So from the White House, they are saying President Cyril Ramaphosa is running his mouth. So we don't know where this tiff will end, but we are here now. It's officially opened, the G20 summit. We'll continue to bring you updates as the day goes by. It's now back to you in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Bongani Sisiba. We are looking forward to hearing more from the G20, especially how the dynamics are working around the absence of America and Donald Trump and his statements there about the president of South Africa, and how this handover is going to happen. So we'll come back to you inside the 9 o'clock hour. Thank you very much.
And now, of course, let's move to Kwara State. The incident that has stood out as one of the most alarming episodes in this latest wave of violence sweeping through the north central and northwest regions. Armed attackers stormed the church compound in the middle of a quiet evening service, catching worshippers completely off guard. Families who came to pray left with fear etched into their memory. Children were taken alongside adults, leaving behind a community struggling to understand how a place of peace became a target. Survivors described scenes of panic as gunmen moved swiftly, creating confusion and helplessness in a space that should have been safe. Security officials say efforts are ongoing to track the attackers, but for families waiting for news of their loved ones, the uncertainty grows heavier by the day.
Indeed, it does. Now, to help us unpack the broader implications of these attacks and what this means for the North Central and Northwest going forward, we have with us our News Central correspondent, Bernard Akedi. Bernard, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning here. We hear that you are on location. Please, first off, give us an update. What have you discovered since you have been there, Bernard?
All right, thank you, Mazino. Well, basically, we've been unpacking everything that has been happening, getting more insights beyond what we just saw in that particular video. I'm here at the church, Christ Apostolic Church, that's CAC, Okeshegun in Eruku community, Kwara State, that's what it's called. And this building here, as you can see beside me, is the church where this all happened. It's locked now, but it is still an active crime scene. We were in there yesterday and we were able to film from inside the church premises, inside the church building itself. And, there's still, you can still feel the ambience, almost as if you can still feel part of what happened, on that day. As a matter of fact, it is still left the same way it was back then. We could still see belongings of some of the people who were abducted and sadly killed as well. We could still see a lot of blood stains trail from one entrance of the church to the other, bullet holes through the windows, through some of the pews in the church. And, it just gave the feeling of what actually happened on that particular day. I'll quickly give you a brief as well. We heard that 3 people were killed. One was a security guard. The second person the security guard was killed and his wife was abducted. Another gentleman too was also killed, and then I think he too had a family member who was abducted, and then the third person was killed in the bushes. The senior pastor had his first son abducted. Another pastor had his older sister also taken away, and then we have a pastor here who his wife was equally taken. Pastor, please come and join me now. If you remember, if you go back to that video, I don't know if you can remember the faces there. The pastor who was leading the congregation that particular night, wearing some kind of yellow outfit, native. He's the one here right now, Pastor Rotimi. Yeah. And unfortunately, his wife was taken. Pastor Rotimi, thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. Very briefly, can you just give us an account of what happened? Very short. You were leading the service that night. Yeah. Briefly, what can you remember that happened?
What I remember in this, something that happened to us in Christ Apostolic Church, Iruku, is that we are doing praise, we have praised God for what I've done because they kidnapped our people, I think last month later. So we have just received our us because we did not lose our people who they kidnapped last month. So Monday we have started the program and nothing happened. But unfortunately on the Tuesday, so I just when choir members sing, so I collected the program. So I started the program. So immediately I didn't even know that it's gone. But I even think maybe it's transformer. If you watch the film, you see the way I will be doing in that day. But I didn't know that they are kidnapper. So that's what I even see. So I just see 4 of them enter church. They are shooting gun. So I don't even know where I can even run. So I just like to protect my member first. So I locked the door when I saw them. So I see all my member. So I went the place where I hide. So they come to my place. So I had them to the altar. So I went again, go to another vestry. So all my members, they are inside that vestry again. So when I see that the kidnapper, I wanted to take all of them. So when I get there and I lock the door for back. So they take another road to enter. So that's what I even know.
Okay, so since then, have you heard from your wife? Have you heard from the people? We heard that 38 people have been kidnapped, women, men, and children. Have you heard from your wife since then?
No, I've never heard anything. But then call us and see not before yesterday, sir. So in the night, they said they wanted to speak with us. So it's one of my the people when they kidnapped me even messaged me because I didn't even call when they call my number. Because I didn't know the number, I didn't pick it. But later, as I saw a message that is the one, that is the part of those people who they kidnapped, they wanted to speak with me. Oh, I said no problem. And I called them back. So the time when I called them, they said they want to speak for those people who hear their language. We should find ourselves between 8 o'clock in the night. So we should gather ourselves so they can speak with us. I say, okay, no problem. So when the time of 8, so we find one of our members that hear their language, or Hausa language, they let me say they hear their language, who hear Hausa language. So we gather ourselves in the mission and they speak with us that we should go and bring 100 million for power, one person. So I said this is then speak with our elder Agbabiaka and our boss, Pastor Nnamdi Bamidele. We are all there together. So they said this money is too much. Where do you want us to see this money? Okay, they wanted to put us like they should go and find like 20 million per one person. I said this money is too much. There's no how. These are our member that you kidnap. So you have to take all of them away. If you wanted to contribute the money, say they are the one that will contribute money for us, but you have to take all of them away like that. Okay. Then say we should the man where hear their language. He said we are begging them. They should take 20 million for all of them. So they say no, except 20 million for one person. So when we calculate 20 million for per one person, that is 760 million naira. So we are still begging them that this money is too much. They say should go and think. You should go and think about it. You should go and do meeting. So before yesterday on the Friday, you should give them report by 4 o'clock. I said that 4 o'clock is too much. You should take to 8 o'clock. They said no.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor Rotimi. So Mazino, well, basically that's the brief of what has happened here. The bandits demanded 100 million on each person's head, 100 million times 38 people, and then they were able to negotiate and beat it down to 20 million. But even at that, looking at the community, you will know that it is practically impossible for the people here to generate or to cough out 20 million per person. Again, 38 people kidnapped, men, women, and children, 3 people killed, and this is the situation at the moment.
Bernard, I know you have to be up and out of Kwara very soon, but I have to ask you this question since you are on ground. It's something that has bothered a lot of people all through the week. Now, it's based on the Christian genocide suggestion that is being made by the American president. Now, this situation here, albeit that it is rather sad, we have to unpack it and ask that question still. For one thing, every conversation that you've had there with the gentleman, the pastor whom you've just spoken with, indicates that these bandits seem to be in this for the money. Now, I don't know if commerce is the driving force. I don't know if poverty is another one. I don't know if there are religious undertone to it, even if this happened inside of a church. But being on ground, how would you define what you met?
So I'd say I think it's a potpourri of everything that you have mentioned. I wouldn't tie it to religion or to poverty or to the state of the nation or whatever you want to say. But what I see is like there's a cyclic functional wheel here. So I've been covering some of these cases for a while, and I've seen that there's something common amongst these bandits and kidnappers. So they kidnap, they demand for huge sums of money. They may not get the amount they request for, but they get something, so they get some money, they get food items, they get materials. Sometimes they get motorcycles from their victims, and they take them into the bushes. Now with these materials they sustain themselves, they most likely purchase weapons, purchase supplies, and then it's rinse and repeat, and then it continues again, and then they use these resources to commit more mayhem in other places. Just like he said, it's not the first time that the community has been hit by these assailants. Again, I would like to bring to the fore that the road leading to the community is in a deplorable state, which is the first issue. And I'll quickly have one of the honorables here who will join me to speak about that in a short while. But it is in such a deplorable state that the bandits have been attacking people using these roads, which is also part of the reason why we would like to leave the community as while there's still daylight. A journey that should take just about 2.5 hours will be taking over 4 hours, and once you are caught on that road, you are sitting ducks. So they use this opportunity to kidnap the transporters, to kidnap motorists, take them into the forest, demand ransom from them, and then use this ransom to purchase supplies for themselves, and then it's rinse and repeat, like I said. I'd quickly like to call the Honorable here so that, for a few minutes, he can also chip in something. Honorable, good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
we'd like to ask, we know that the governor was here some days ago.
Yes.
What were the issues that he addressed when he came here, particularly because of this kidnapping?
Thank God for what has God had done for us in our community. Immediately the executive governor of Kwara State, Madam Abrasak, helped the issue. She came to Eruku to come and visit us and enter the church, see what the kidnappings are done for the church. And we complain that this federal road is part of the problem for this our area, because they use that opportunity for that the road it's not okay to kidnap people, taking the inside the bush, taking away and they see for the money. But what has happened? This on Tuesday in our community, it's very, in fact, it's very bad.
So I didn't ask your name. Can you give us your name, please?
My name is Honorable Prince Ade Omanisi.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are the?
I'm the Honorable, the son of the late Kabesi of Eruku.
Okay. So now what is the demand of the people of Eruku now? Because we heard that this is not the first time that these bandits come to kidnap people, but it's the first time they are doing this in the church. Yes. So what are the people asking for from the government?
You're asking for full security. And our executive governor promised us that he's going to work on it. And we see that immediately he left, we see some soldiers. So it's our community now. So and you still receive, but because this has no security for our community here, that's a danger. Because of no security, people are running, pack and load, run for the leave the community, and this is very bad.
Thank you so much, Honorable. So Mazino, wrapping that up, just as he said, on our way coming, we did see vehicles with people's belongings on them, in them, moving. We didn't realize that these actually are residents, indigenous of the community, who, because of the insecurity, the state of insecurity, have started moving out of the community. We were able to speak to the Kabesi late last night. He had been pleading to his people to please come back, that the governor has promised security and that they actually see some of those promises coming to play. We see that there are now presence of some armed security operatives, military men, members, officers of Nigerian Army, police officers are here too. But also worthy of note now is that the people are having to defend themselves. We saw a huge number of people, scattered across the community late last night from evening time till night, carrying Dane guns, in defense of themselves, their lives and their property. And they say that that is what they have resorted to. They will not wait for the government to do it for them alone. They know their community. They will do their best to defend themselves. But, Mazino, it's quiet here. It's solemn. The people are living in fear. And I'll wrap this up by saying yesterday while we were filming, I did mention when the bushes, they were taking us to where one of the people who was kidnapped was killed in the bushes. And then we heard sporadic gunfire. We all had to run for our own lives as well. It came twice, before we found out, as we were told, that it most likely was the security operatives doing some kind of, shooting some kind of, warning shots. Possibly they heard something or they saw something, but that's how the people are living now. Every sound is a warning shot. Everything agitates them, and they basically are living in fear.
Well, Bernard, I'd like to say, first off, I have always admired your job, but in cases like this, I don't know how I would feel putting yourself in danger just so you can bring this fearless reporting to us. I want to say thank you very much. We also look forward to seeing you back here in Lagos.
Safe.
Do be safe, please. Thank you, Bernard.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Very sad situation there. The visuals are still very fresh, and we hope that the conditions get better. We hope that those kidnapped are found, but we'll continue to bring more updates as it comes to us here at News Central. Let's go on a break now. We've got more conversation inside our first hour for Breakfast Extra. Welcome back again. It's Breakfast Extra for a Saturday morning, our very first hour here. Now, this morning on Breakfast Extra, we turn our attention to a landmark ruling that has sent ripples across Nigeria's political and, legal landscape. The Federal High Court has sentenced the IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment after a prolonged terrorism trial that has shaped national conversations for years. The ruling has triggered mixed reactions from legal minds, political observers, and communities across the Southeast, many of whom have waited anxiously for clarity on this long-running case. As expected, the implications of this judgment, well, they go far beyond the courtroom. They touch on issues of national cohesion, public trust in the justice system, the politics of separatism, and the future of security operations in the region. For many Nigerians, this is a moment that raises more questions than it does give answers. Well, we are going to begin with a detailed breakdown of the trial and also the verdict. And while we are waiting for our correspondent, Joshua Imarayi, who followed this story all through the week, we have with us here inside of the studio and also joining us via Zoom an array of very interesting guests here. Joining us, Dr. Sam Amadi, Director at Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, and also in the studio here with us, Mr. Fred Nziako, Public Affairs Analyst. Isaac Fayoshe joins us, Public Affairs Analyst, and also Magaji Mato Ibrahim, Senior Advocate of Nigeria and private legal practitioner. Gentlemen, you are all welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Good morning, gentlemen. I think I would like to start with Mr. Fred, who's right beside me. This verdict and this situation in the court has been ongoing. From somebody who I believe can relate to what's going on, can you just tell us your view of how you feel about this ruling?
Well, the ruling is very controversial, and the controversy didn't start with the judgment. It started all through the trial has been very controversial, starting from the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu way back in 2015. Everything surrounding his detention, his extraordinary rendition, and now all the issues surrounding the trial in court, they have all been marred by controversy. And of course, rightly, as you rightly said, has divided opinion so much because if we don't go back in history, if we want to stay on the issue of the judgment, there are so many things that have cast that judgment into the realm of controversy, to the extent that some people have viewed it as a travesty of justice and an unexpected happenstance. When you talk about trust in the judicial system and trust in justice delivery, especially with respect to all men being equal before the law, between North and South, there are so many issues bordering on politics, issues of legality, issues of so many issues, and they have just cast the judgment in seemingly bad light, to the extent that some people believe that even the judge himself, the honorable judge himself, descended into the arena and then left the realm of judgment into the realm of self-opinion. There are so many instances in that regard. Some of his self-opinion, one could say, was in favor of the accused, some against the law, because if, for example, the Anti-Terrorism Act with which he was tried, the defendant said that he was tried with a law that has been repealed. It gets you worried. So there was an Anti-Terrorism Act of 2011, which was repealed in 2022. And then you now ask yourself, which law exactly was he being tried? If it's that of 2022, then is he being tried in retrospect? If it's that of 2011, is he being tried with a repealed law that is no longer alive? That is one aspect of the controversy. The second aspect of controversy, if the law itself has said that the punishment for terrorism is death sentence, does it lie in the opinion of the court to determine whether to issue a life sentence instead of death sentence as prescribed by law? Is he following the law or following his opinion? In this regard, one could say his quotation of the Bible, when has the quotation of the Bible become part and parcel of instrumentality of justice delivery in our law, in a country that we say is a secular country? If you quote the Quran when you are delivering judgment, how would the Christian say it? So these are all issues. You will limit yourself to the issues of law and not issues of sentiment, self-opinion, or even your faith. And then again, it doesn't lie in the opinion of the court to determine where the convict will serve his sentence. We have correctional services. And there's an act establishing Nigerian prison services, which is now Nigerian correctional services. Does it lie in the judge's opinion? Does the judge not usurp the functions of the executive when he says he will be kept in different consignment? And then I was asking myself, would he be kept in Guantanamo Bay or in Robben Island of South Africa? Or is he going to be created a special confinement? That is he a special convict?
You ask very interesting questions here that I think the only person who actually can come after this is Mr. Magaji Ibrahim here, because the questions are all legal. These questions about laws being repealed, or whether it ought to be a death sentence as it was from before, or whether the court has that liberty to make it a life sentence. So, Mr. Magaji, please do tell us if you could answer some of these questions by Mr. Nzeako.
Very much. Thank you for having me around, and then thank you, viewers, for this moment. The trial of Nnamdi Kanu is something that we look at, like my brother just said, from different dimensions. But the truth is, what is unfortunate about the trial is the fact that he was given opportunity to defend himself. He was given opportunity to put down all these arguments that people are making out for him. If the law is a repeal law, this will come from his defense. Unfortunately, somehow, we saw a lapse in the defense. At the time, there were lawyers representing him. And at a point in time, these lawyers were debriefed, and he himself opted to defend himself. But while we're all waiting for defense, he eventually decided to abandon the defense, and there was nothing placed before the court again on the side of the defense. You see, truly, if the prosecution have brought damning evidences, allegations, including media chats and some document to say, oh, this person has been involved in acts of terrorism or whatever, the expected thing is, constitutionally, is for him to come and say, oh no, that is not correct, and then bring spurious evidence and arguments in law to say, oh, even the law that you are trying me is a repeal law. But people must learn to understand the operation of the judiciary. The judiciary is just an innocent setting that you are only limited to what is before you. For instance, if the prosecution have brought this as their evidence and they testified, and there is no counter evidence to show that what they did or what they brought before the court for the court to rely on is wrong, there is nothing the judge can do. Unfortunately, even if the judge has an idea of what the truth is, he must only rely on the materials that are placed before him. I am not in any way saying that we're happy that things are playing out like this in the country, especially when you look at it from the sentimental point of view, that you have sessions of people who probably have been involved in different acts of terrorism, and most of them are roaming about freely in the streets, and then you have the gentleman from the southeast, and then he's passing through this. But the truth is, the law is clear. It is the duty of the prosecution to choose who to prosecute, for which offense to prosecute. We cannot choose for them. They can arrest 100 criminals or alleged criminals and decide to go after one. That is the law. Very unfortunately, that is the position of the law. So what has played out is a situation where we have not seen defense, because we needed to see the defense, so we now weigh it side by side to say, oh, this was what the prosecution said, and on the other side, this was what the defense have presented before the court.
So Mr. Ibrahim,
based on this, we'll be able to give our opinion to say that, oh, the judge has erred in this way, the judge has erred in that way. But we have a situation where the only available evidence and defense, and argument is that of the prosecution. You don't have anything from the,
Mr. Ibrahim,
the defense side.
Mr. Ibrahim, I hate to cut you. So, in your opinion, you do not agree, or do you agree, that the court, or rather maybe the judge, might have descended into the realm of personal opinion, like Mr. Nzeako here had noted from before? What's your take on that, very shortly?
Yes, You see, when it comes to issue of sentencing, there is what we call allocators. When you make an allocators, it is a situation where the side of the convict presents the both sides present the historical background and the antecedent of the convict to say, oh, this is a first convict. He has not been doing this. He has not done that. He has conducted himself in such a manner that has shown remorsefulness and the rest. So the judge has some level of discretion to now temper what we call justice with mercy. And that is also within the prerogative of the judge. But where a law specifically mentioned that the offense, social offense, the punishment for social offense is this, actually it is not within the power of the judge to now alter it from that particular offense and from that particular punishment to another punishment. That is never done.
Okay, then,
issue of, yes.
Yeah, we're trying to manage time here and also get all our respondents to actually speak. So do permit us, my apologies. But Queen, go ahead.
Yes, sure. So, Mr. Madi, I just wanted to ask you what you think right now, the ruling, do you think it has, how is it reshaping the conversation about, federal authority and regional dissent in Nigeria, especially in the southeast?
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I used to be a professor of law, so I understand what's going on here. And I've also practiced Supreme Court could have been criminal cases. There are three things here. Terrorism is an allegation and a crime against the state. If you look at the charge and the decision, there are no references to the death of Mr. A or B. So this is a case against the states, violence or threat against the state. And that's why it's a political charge, always. And so the question around selective justice comes in. So if I was a lawyer to Frederick Fashion in the days of OPC in Lagos, in those days, people were hacked down, killed in the street of Lagos, just after June 12th, when Abiola was, arrested and all that. Adams or Fashion or Kakayode Gundamasi, all those secretary leaders of OPC, nobody went for trial for terrorism. I was lied to OD and Ogoni Ken Sarawiwa. In 1995, Gado found me, and Ken went for trial for the alleged killing of people for Ogoni. It was political because the government wanted to suppress Ogoni insurrection. Ogoni wanted to say, I remember speaking to Justice Aota, the chairman of the later Chief Justice of the Federal High Court, who told me, Sam, if I was Abacha, I would have dealt with this guy. So the context is Nigeria's politics. The Niger Delta militants didn't face terrorism. I mean, somebody like Governor Tokumelu is not perhaps the richest guy. Asare Dokubo, Tom Ateke is a traditional ruler. So the choice of who to go against in terrorism charge is a political decision and based on the calculus of political confidence. That's number one. Number two is that when we look at justice, it's not just about the technicalities. The arraignment, this is the guy who stood there for 10 years, kept in DSS cell. A judge who handles a case has a control over the matter. He could have remanded him in prison. He never did that. So all the restrictions, there's no way it's a fair hearing. And ultimately, the judge himself, for example, one of the evidence there talks about NSAS. I mean, NSAS started long before Nnamdi Kanu. Even if the broadcast is true, that broadcast did not lead to the killing because NSAS I know the history of NSAS. So this is the point we're getting to. Yes, it's true that he didn't put up a defense, but in criminal charges, you still have to prove the case beyond reasonable doubt. So you are liberal to say the prosecution has not made a case for me to answer. So he made a no case submission, which the court refused to, or rather denied, and asked him to put his defense. So nevertheless, I know why it's a good strategy, but the fact is, these proceedings, and I've written the judgment, I've not finished it, it's flawed in many ways, and hopefully Konapi can upset it. But the point, bigger picture is that I fear for Nigeria because my children, daughters, everybody, young people who probably never liked Nnamdi Kanu, who detests his business, and many of those don't think that's the right way to go. But they all feel that it's a crime in Nigeria to be Igbo. I mean, look at terrorists in northern Nigeria, carrying self-identified. Look at even Sheikh Gumi. So the question is, whenever the state, Buhari APC government, took extra effort to illegally bring him to the country, took extra effort to keep him when he was gathered before, the Nigerian army went to his village. So that propensity to attack, if they kill a soldier in the southeast, if they mobilize full Nigerians to crush the community, if they kill hundreds of soldiers anywhere in the north, they don't do. So it's a joke. What we do that we are poisoning the mind of the next generation of Igbo. The rift between Nigeria and Igbo people, no matter how our politicians and governors go to Abuja and cover it up, that rift is eternally becoming irreconcilable. So the younger generation are more violently anti-Nigeria because they see it every day. It didn't make sense. Look, I didn't agree. I quarreled publicly with IPOB. I think that the way we should organize any concern about Southeast should be more political. I'm very clear about that. But when you look back at the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, that's why in my broadcast I said the person who was convicted and sentenced is Ndibo. The South is not Nnamdi Kanu. Because if there are 5 criminals, and by the way, terrorism is political. If you decide you can frame any act as terrorist, don't forget that this terrorist act came in the wave of terrorism waves. And so the choice of who to prosecute, what we call prosecutorial discretion, is political. So the essence is right. You don't say because somebody committed this crime, therefore don't prosecute me. But the fact that you chose me and not these other evident cases shows that you are more concerned about me and you are tolerant of others. And in political terms, that's why people say, oh, why people supporting Nnamdi Kanu? No.
Well, Dr. Amadi,
yeah.
Dr. Amadi, there's so much to unpack from everything that you have told here today regarding the mode of the court case itself, and especially that fact about how he was retrieved to Nigeria. We'll come back to that, but I wanted to get something about public perception, the social dynamics here. And let's come to Mr. Isaac Farisi. Mr. Farisi, I'm wondering what you have picked up so far, whether from social media or public sentiments regarding the sentencing. Since it was announced, this death sentence, or rather this life imprisonment, what have you picked up? What sentiments have you picked up from people?
I think the judgment is about Igbo. To me, the judgment, look at the guy has been there for 10 years. And there was a court that freed the guy long time ago, and they refused, they didn't allow the guy to go. So it's so easy for them. I think look at what is happening in our country. Is it Nnamdi now? We have made a lot of video advising this APC government how you can use Kanu Nnamdi to, I mean, stabilize southeastern Nigeria. Because Kanu is bigger than all the governors from southeast. Kanu Nnamdi is bigger than all the governors in south-south. All those decamping, they are wasting their time with the way they are decamping. They can't even get 100,000 votes. They can't even get anything. They can't even get 100,000 votes. They can't get nothing. But if you convert this guy, use this guy to head of the security team in Southeast, the peace we will be getting there now will be nice.
Mr. Farisi, do we have any precedents of something like this happening before, where somebody who was considered persona non grata was made an authority?
My brother, Wasiu Ayinde Kwamwan, tried to stop a plane. Next day, they made him ambassador. Are you joking? Look at Sunday Igboho Osha. Same thing with Nnamdi. Igboho was in Nigeria about a few months ago. They didn't arrest him. He went around to greet the kings and said, the kings, oh, we've settled it. Talk to the president. Come on. Putting Kanu in jail for life is at a disadvantage to this government and to Nigeria.
So you seem to be pointing to something, and you just mentioned that it's a disadvantage to actually imprison him for life. So what exactly?
Yes, now, because my brother, in prison Kanu, what value has that had to Igbo land?
What would happen? What do you suspect would happen now that he has been given the life sentence? What would happen to the people who
my
see
brother,
him?
The bitterness continues. How you made the Igbo feel? You made them unwanted. You made them feel unwanted. Look at what is happening in our country now. Look at Boko Haram. Look at kidnapping going on. Gumi or Gimme is going parading, say, oh yeah, educate them, integrate them. They're saying all sorts. Why can't you do the same with Kanu? Why? All the people, okay, let us look at it from a political angle. All the governors, the capping from southeast, south, they only have 10%. Releasing Kanu alone can give APC 90%. My brother, there is a saying in Yoruba, that means as the she they do, which we cannot be doing. Come on, imprison this guy is at a disadvantage to our nation, not a plus. If he had free Kanu, it would have healed a lot of wounds from southeast. A lot of people have been happy, and it will have calmed that region. Southeast will have been at peace right now. But with this one now, do you think the sit-at-home will stop? No. Do you think the insecurity in Southeast will go down? No. You are adding more to the problem. You don't understand? You understand what I mean? Not at this point.
Mr. Farage, thank you.
The guy has been there 10 years. 10 years. It's frustrating. You can see his aggression. You can understand why he's angry. Look at Samuel Ekpa. It took that government 9 months to finalize and round up everything. But Kanu, 10 years.
All right, Mr. Farage.
You can see why this guy said, no, I'm debriefing my legal team because he's frustrated.
Mr. Farage, just a second. Mr. Farage, we'll come back to you, Mr. Farage.
Well, Mazino, thank you. You know, this conversation, like he said, has taken so long. So, Mr. Nzeoku, I hope I pronounced it perfectly.
Exactly, yes.
You know, everybody has expressed their opinion as to this has taken so long. So, that, for one, questions Nigeria as to why is it taking it so long to get to the verdict of the matter. That's one. And of course, you're from the southeast, and I believe that you know what the people are saying or how they are feeling. And now somebody has been in court for so long, he will be frustrated trying to fight for what he believes is right. So some people, they're like, oh, he's as an activist fighting for the rights of Nigerians. On the other hand, it's like he's fighting against the federal government. How do you think this would have been best resolved? Because based on Mr. Isaac, he's saying that they would have found a better way to use Nnamdi Kanu as a Nigerian, which is he's also a British citizen as well, that I've been told. So how do you think this would have panned out for Nigeria? I understand that there's no sentiments for law, but once you put a bit of doubt in law, then everything can go against you. So how do we navigate from here?
In criminal trials, you have to prove the allegation beyond reasonable doubt. From what my colleagues have said, there has not been any proof beyond reasonable doubt. Let me extend the examples given by Mr. Fayose. Professor Banji Akintoye leads a Yoruba separatist group. And the group went to Ibadan, headquarters of Oyo State, and hoisted the flag of Yoruba nation at the parliament and at the government house. Some people were arrested, and the next couple of days they were all released. So what does it tell you? It tells you that there is selective justice in Nnamdi Kanu's case. Courts in Nigeria, Federal High Court, Court of Appeal, have asked that this young man be left off the hook. In fact, the Federal High Court said that he will even be paid compensation. Federal government refused to leave him. Federal government refused to pay him compensation. Federal government illegally kidnapped him. When they say extraordinary rendition, the way you understand this is a government involved in a kidnap of a citizen from Kenya to Nigeria. And that was condemned all over the world, including Nigerian judicial system. So at the end of the day, what does it tell you? It tells you that I agree with Dr. Amade that it is an injury against the Igbos. And that sentiment is not only sentiment, it is reality. When we talk about marginalization, we talk about deprivation, now it has come to the level where the issues that have to do with the Southeast becomes given a different treatment, even over and above the provisions of the law. So if you even want to restrict yourself to the issues of law, why would a citizen be kept in detention for 10 good years? Once a citizen takes his plea in court, he is taken to correctional center. The SSS custody is not a correctional center. It is not a prison custody. It is a punitive environment, just like a police cell. So it has a lot of difference. So why would he be kept in SSS custody? Why? And for 10 good years, he has been kept in such solitary confinement. As a matter of fact, some people even started becoming afraid that the terrible dehumanization of Nnamdi Kanu was enough to affect his mental balance. So I completely disagree with the judge. If part of his judgment was anchored on emotional sentimentalism of Nnamdi Kanu's behavior in court, because he has seen perceived injustice done on him in all aspects of this trial. And that is why we call this a travesty of justice. And then Nnamdi Kanu's matter is a very big sore point on Nigeria's political environment and Nigeria's existence as a nation.
Let's talk about
Very,
that
very
political environment, because we have a very interesting input here that we have to put. It's a tweet that we're going to be reading. While we're getting that one ready, I just wanted to say, Dr. Ahmadi and also Mr. Farashi, now, after I read this, I'm going to be expecting your comments on this. And this tweet is from the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs. And of course, we know who that is, Bianca Odumegwu. And I'm going to read parts of it, not all of it. It says here, I have just returned from Zanzibar, Tanzania, where I have been for the past 5 days at the NTAC monitoring exercise. She goes on to say that the sad news of the conviction and sentencing of Nnamdi Kanu on terrorism charges, this is not the outcome we anticipated, she says, nor prayed for, but a reality that is now upon us. She goes on. There comes a time in the history of people when there is need for calm. I therefore advise Ndigbo and Nigerians as a whole that such a period is now. There is utmost need to exercise restraint in response to this situation. All actions which could be deemed incendiary and which might escalate the situation at home or in the diaspora should be curtailed. A word is enough for the wise. She goes on. There's so much there captured inside of that tweet. You might want to find it and read it yourself. But it carries a lot of weight, even if it's calling for calm and restraint. Mr. Isaac Farashi, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about this tweet? It's the first we've seen from someone in authority, and especially someone from that region. What's your take on it?
Oh, well, the tweet speaks for itself. You know, come on, the Igbos have been marginalized. Look come on, how do we explain this judgment after 10 years? How? How do we explain this? No, well, I said they should be calm, but, well, they are calm, but you are calm in the face of injustice, and it's going from generation to generation to generation. Abba, when are we going to correct this? When are we as a nation going to correct this? How can we be in sin and expect His grace to abound? A nation in sin and is expecting development, is expecting growth. You are telling a whole region, just stay calm, don't worry, stay calm. And now they've transferred the guy to Sokoto State. Abba, Igbo man, Igbo prisoner sent to Sokoto State. Is that, come on, how do we explain this? How? Kidnappers, bandits, you rehabilitate them, put some in our army, put some in a good position. But this guy, for 10 years, can't you say, oh, you've been here for 10 years, go out, go and see no more. So now you are, how do we explain jailing this guy for life? How? I don't know how to explain this. To be honest. I feel sorry for the Igbos. I feel so sorry for them. I feel so sorry for my country because we are not even ready yet. We are not ready yet.
Mr. Farashi, thank you. Dr. Sam Ahmadi, what do you think the consequences are going to be, especially noting that we are beginning to have people of note come out to tell their displeasure about the eventuality of that ruling?
I think, Bianca, is trying to save herself, because the first aftermath of this judgment was some kind of status of traitor. People started on Twitter and said, this woman's a traitor, deal with her, whatever. So this is self-defense, and it's a good one to say, you know what, I care about this. Whether she cares is a different thing. Second is that, like, look, I issued a video that's gone viral saying, Southeast people, this is what this means. It's political. It means that you guys need to organize politically to chase out the current governors and those who are replaced, but they failed you. Now organize themselves to go back to Kwara days, to Ojukwu days, strong leaders who will fight Nigeria for you. That's the point. And so whether my advice or Dr. Bianca to say, don't do violence, the Southeast will work, I don't know. This is eruption. It will boil in the underground before you know it, it escapes. I think that, look, Buhari brought Kanu to Nigeria in an extraordinary way. Tinubu finished the job. So maybe they're going to wait to see if they can get a political capital from it. So maybe then the election, they try to do something. But the truth of the matter is, look, the danger is not to Nigeria. Yes, Igbos may feel cheated now, but imagine losing for generations the citizens who feel that their country hates them. How can you build the human capital? How can you mobilize the national consensus for development? The problem is that these elementary pedestrian issues around identity and belonging is what we are doing in an age of artificial intelligence, where we should be mobilizing all our effort for national transfer. It's painful that the idea that the Igbo man is not loved, is hated, is not willing to have equal right, persists for decades when we should be one country driving development. So I sit back and say, everybody loses here. Igbo citizens go with a sense of deprivation, a sense that they don't belong, and an anger to fight Nigeria. Nigeria loses the support of, wholehearted endorsement and support of its citizens. Look at the veterans in America, working hard to undermine what government is doing. Will you perpetually live in a household divided by your own inability to provide justice? Look at the fact that Southeast has only 5 states, others have 6, 7. Look at the fact that they don't have any federal presence in terms of any parastatal headquarters. Look at the fact that they don't even have seaport, all this. Look at the fact of years of civil war. Look at the fact that reconstruction has failed. And you keep on adding kerosene and matches to that situation. I think it's total lack of leadership of the current government and everybody involved to think that punishing Nnamdi Kanu in this manner and 10 years trial, it fails every idea of free and fair trial. And then doing it in a manner that creates for you, population. My daughter, my children telling me, it's like Igbos are not wanted in Nigeria. It's something that creates a chilling effect on me. I say, look, if these people grow up with a mindset that their country hates them, in the age of IT, technology, think about the next storm we're going to have. It
Very
is
worrying.
So that can create clone and blow everybody up because they feel angry. It is a sad time, and our leaders are not thinking about it.
Tell us from the legal part, do you think that this ruling has closed the case legally, or you think there's still an avenue for, appeal or defense?
Of course, the matter can go on appeal. Appeal is a constitutional right. Nnamdi Kanu can appeal the judgment, not just at the Court of Appeal, down to Supreme Court to get justice if he perceives that injustice has been done. But beyond all these expression of sentiment and the rest, which I expect that you are addressing the public, I think it's the trial of Kanu is not about the Igbos. I do not believe that it's about the Igbos, and I do not believe, I am not a politician, I am a lawyer. But I think the narrative should have been Kanu is being prosecuted. There are other people who probably have committed offense close to his own or worse than his own. Why are they not being prosecuted? They should also be prosecuted. But for us to argue that because he's an Igbo man, he should be let to go, or he should not be faced, he should not be prosecuted in court, I do not think that should be the narrative.
Yeah, but
because no matter
Mr.
how we
Ibrahim,
express our sentiment,
Mr. Ibrahim,
I
I want to say something about that before you go too far regarding the sentiments that this would lead to outside when it comes to social constructs. Now, if you're saying that this is not about the Igbo, well, yes, you are correct, but that's not what people out there would think. You are a schooled lawyer, you know the law. People out there would not, in fact. So they are at liberty to go with feeling. And I think that that's much of what Mr. Farashe has been trying to express here, and the reason why we actually had him on. Considering that, it would seem that, like you said, it is no longer about the crime that was committed, but it seems like it's about the people. We've also seen people from this region start to come out and tell how displeasured they were about it. And it also seems to shift from it being about the judiciary, but then to the ruling government is what it seems like, as if there's some sort of influence that they have on the case. Why are we seeing all these, and how do they play into the dynamics? Should it be considered, should it have been considered when the sentencing was being given, Mr. Ibrahim?
Yes, so you see, that is why, when we talk and we're addressing the public, we want the public a duty to put the facts straight. I am not in any way happy that anybody will have to suffer injustice for any reason. But what I'm saying, it cannot be looked at in that dimension. And then we cannot be even saying that the Igbos is about the Igbos. It's not about the Igbos. I think it's about Nigeria. It's high time we understand that we have come to stay as a nation. And if something has gone wrong, even if the person is your brother or from your tribe, I think it's about, the discussion should be on what the issue is, not on where he comes from and the tribe he belongs. So my point is, we owe the public a duty. Of course, while the narrative has gone in this manner, it is the duty of the media and the duty of the lawyers who at least understand the law and the operation, because it will be unjust. Even if we keep talking about the judge having done based on sentiment, this and that, you will never have the judge coming to address the press to tell you his own part of the story. So we are saying, my point is, if we perceive that there was no justice in the judgment, I think all we need to do is to explain what should be the solution. The solution is you appeal this judgment. And if we all believe that the judgment was not done according to law, was not given according to law, the Court of Appeal will look at this and set it aside. Severally, even if the Court of Appeal is wrong, the Supreme Court is there to look at it. So my point is, the public should be made to understand that the judiciary has a duty. Once a matter is brought before the judiciary, and the judiciary is not God, it's manned by a human being. The judiciary can make mistakes. That is why even the law itself decided, we have the trial court, we have the Court of Appeal, and we have the Supreme Court. The trial court is manned by only a single judge. When you go to the Court of Appeal, you have 3 justices who will look at it in a different dimension. When you leave the Court of Appeal, you go to the Supreme Court. If it is ordinary matter, you have 5 justices of the Supreme Court that will sit on that appeal. And if it is a constitutional issue, you have 7 justices that will sit on the matter and look at it from every dimension and angle to see, was justice done at the trial level? If justice was done, good and fine, they affirm it. If justice was not, they will set it aside. At times, they even give recommendation for the discipline of the judge that sat at the trial level. So we are saying that it's a legal solution. It's not about sentiment. It's not about our personal opinion. It's not about what we feel, and it's not about the Igbos. It's about Nigeria.
Thank you very much,
If the judgment that was handed against Nnamdi Kanu is a bad judgment, it affects Nigerians, not the Igbos. So my argument and my position is, should we have a situation like that, we look at the issue at stake. Was he wrong in any way that the government has arrested him and prosecuted him? Yes. Was the trial right? Okay, if you believe it's wrong, appeal it. Are there other people from other sessions, like some of my brothers have been mentioning, Gumi and the rest? Now, our focal discussion should be, the federal government, you have arrested and prosecuted Nnamdi Kanu. We have seen a situation where somebody comes to the public, the glare of the public, and is making some other inciting statement that have the tendency of promoting terrorism in Nigeria, in the person of Gumi or any other person, in our opinion. Why not extend this same thing to him? I think that should be, so that we stay as a nation and we build our country together. We cannot all the time get it right. but we can always struggle to get it right and do the right thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim.
On this, I listen carefully, but I do not want to join in the general position that it is about the Igbos. No, it's beyond the Igbos. The Igbos are part and parcel of Nigeria. The Igbos are also constitutionally entitled to all the privileges and the rights of in Nigeria, like any other tribe.
Right.
All right, Mr. Bagaji, I'll take that as your final take. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ibrahim. Mr. Salman Mahdi, can you please tell us, briefly, what your final take on this will be?
The learned SL can say what he's saying, as if trials have no history. I told you I was a lawyer in Nasarawa's case. He was tried by Ibrahim Arota, and he said this one should be hanged. He told me personally before the trial, before even the judgment, because he's challenging Nigeria. Look, we've seen political trials. We've seen Rivola trial, Nelson Mandela. Yes, it's not about trial. The decision to prosecute one person is a political decision. So I challenge his thesis that it's not about the Igbos. He is painting this beautiful picture of the law. I teach jurisprudence for years. The law is this clear something, but that's not true. We're here in this country. We are somebody who came forth, became number one by the Supreme Court. Which court, sir? Which Nigerian judicial system? The exercise of the right of Attorney General to withdraw cases for public policy, is there. So if the government took out that case, for example, and settled politically, it's still part of the legal system. I don't want to go to the judge personally, but clearly, if you look at the case, I think he got a lot of things wrong. I know the Supreme Court will say so. But the point we're saying is that don't talk law as if law is independent of society. That's why we have laws, the social theory of law. Law is about perception. The law says rule of law is not just what we do, it's what people perceive the court to be doing. So if you put somebody 10 years behind DSS, there's no law that says DSS can hold somebody. And the judge cannot say, no, or even the Boko Haram terrorists who are self-confessed are in prison. And you put that person in DSS cell, you harass his family, you harass his lawyers, you make his lawyers look like cheap. When you like, you allow them to see him. That's not justice. Look at the guy who killed Charles Pick in the US. The system is open. He is treated like every other accused person. Once you are accused before the court, you already control the court. But when the court now panders to DSS, panders to state security against one accused person, a state advocate comes and says, you know what, it's law. No, don't. Look, thank God, I studied law at Harvard Law School with a PhD in law, taught constitutional law, practiced with Gadifa, practiced with Sabakoba. I wouldn't take that to say, oh, because he went through a law. The Nigerian legal system itself is at the level of highest discredit itself, the court itself. So let's not come and pretend as if we've got this beautiful legal system and our lawyers and judges are even well trained, understand the laws. No,
all right, Doctor.
Read the judgments.
All right, Dr. Salman Mahdi.
Don't. So I have to be very clear that yes, it's a Nigerian crime, but the political undertone is actually assault against the Igbos. And we've seen several cases of
noted, Dr. Salman Mahdi.
So I don't take those kind of proofs, from people on television.
Noted, sir. Noted, sir. But let's come to the studio here and ask Mr. Nziako what his final take would be on this.
I want to ask the learned and to point one Nigerian, just one, that has been treated the way Nnamdi Kanu has been treated. Just one. Across these geopolitical zones of the country. Mention one person that has been given the kind of inhuman, injustice system that Nnamdi Kanu has been given. And if he says it's not about the Igbo, it's about who? What is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? When has verbal insult become a crime? I said it in 2021, that we have what is called law of thought. If you insult me, I take it as a civil offense. President Muhammad Buhari, out of his wicked heart, converted civil offense, civil thought to a crime. Even the declaration of IPOB as a terrorist organization is overbearing and overboard and very criminal-minded by government. Because the real criminals are, why would government convert or rebrand terrorists as bandits? Why? Because terrorism is an international crime, but banditry is a local crime. And that is why they try to keep away countries that want to come and attack terrorists. They convert them to bandits. It was Buhari's government. And it is the same mindset that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has followed. Very unfortunately, when Tinubu was coming, I thought and I hoped that he would be able to right the wrongs of Buhari. But I am so disappointed that he has been unable to right those wrongs. He's very disappointed.
No, well, Mr.
Very disappointed.
Mr. Nziaku, apologies, but we have run out of time, but we still have one final take to take. Mr. Isaac Fayose, please, your final take on the entire issue.
Brother, they said justice delayed is justice denied. Nnamdi has been denied justice long time ago. Long time ago. How can he be on a matter for 10 years? 10 good years. So he's been denied justice long time ago. Look at a guy. There was a guy in Nigeria. There's a guy in Nigeria, Ndume's case. Worst case used to supply arms to terrorists and all that. Ndume is out now. Ndume was arrested after Nnamdi Kanu. I think is in to Southeast, is justice to the Igbos. And I hope appeal court can do justice on this matter. In a country where we have our judiciary singing on your mandate we shall stand. I don't know if there's any hope, because I saw them this week singing on your mandate we stand. Judiciary, please stand on people's mandates, not on a political party or on one man stand or on one man mandates.
Right.
This injustice against Igbo must stop now. It's moving from generation to generation. It started from my grandfather to my father, Ojuku said. Now it's moving to us. Now our children are watching. Let us stop this injustice once and for all.
Wow.
Kanu, our heart is with you. God will set you free.
Wow.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mr. Sam Amadi, Mr. Mogaji Ibrahim, Mr. Isaac Fayose, of course, Mr. Fred Nziaku. This was really an amazing conversation to get to see the light from both the political side, the legal side, and of course, socially,
general
and of course,
opinion,
and the indigents of the Southeast. We appreciate you guys joining us this morning. God bless. Thank you. Well, welcome back, and this is still Breakfast Extra within the 9 o'clock hour. Now, the wave of bandit attacks across the north central and northwest continues to expose the persistent gaps in community security, policing, and early response system in several states. This week alone, armed groups struck again in Kebbi, Kwara, and Nasarawa, leaving families in shock and communities scrambling for answers. In Kebbi State, the abduction of children and adults has renewed fears among residents who say they no longer feel safe in their own homes. Similar incidents in Kwara and Nasarawa add to the growing pattern of coordinated attacks that are stretching both local vigilance efforts and state security agencies. Let us begin with the latest field report. And here is News Central correspondent Jamil Mabai.
Unfortunately, that report isn't coming now, but we will bring that report by Jamil Mabai. But Jamil joins us now. Jamil is joining us to have this conversation alongside very interesting guests that we have for this conversation. Also joining us is going to be Queen Natasha, who is going to be joining us to talk about the instance from the, how it affects the students. And of course, we will be joined by another respondent here today. But first off, let's start with Jamil Mabai, who is in Kebbi State. Jamil, please do tell us exactly what the situation was like. I remember that I actually got to speak with you during the news on, if I'm not mistaken, on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, or was that on Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. Do give us an update of what's happening in Kebbi.
Nothing much has changed, nothing much has happened. 26 girls were abducted. 2 managed to escape, and their parents are still waiting in hope that the government will do something in finding, the students, their, children. But one surprising thing is, the last time we spoke, I told you that the government has intel that the bandits were within Kebbi territory. They have not crossed over to Zamfara. So that gave a bit of hope to parents, knowing that if the bandits are still within the territory, the students can be rescued in no time. But I heard from my own sources, they told me now the bandits have finally crossed over into Zamfara territory, and that is their terrain. They have mastered that terrain, and finding these students now, it's going to be a hell of a task, unless probably the government will have to pay ransom. And I know I'm yet to confirm from official sources, but I have heard that back channels movements now are going on in trying to see how they can secure the release of these students. But one thing about this abduction of Kebbi State is when you dig deeper, when you're on ground, that is when you will understand, there were a lot of complacency from the people started with the responsibility to protect these students. This issue couldn't have happened. Why? Because the governor himself, said that he stationed soldiers in that particular school, and they were given orders that this thing is bound to happen. And they were shown all the blind spots everywhere. Unfortunately, at around 2, these soldiers withdrew from the school. An hour later, less than an hour, these bandits stormed the school, went straight to the house of the chief security officer, asked him whether he was the one. He answered yes. They shot him there and then. From there, they proceeded to the abduction, where they abducted the school children. So this is the unanswered question that many people are not asking the right question. Even the media houses that reported the incidents, like I said earlier, the narrative was the vice principal was killed. This shows, this tradition of lazy journalism when it comes to conflict reporting, which has contributed in escalating this problem of insecurity. But it wasn't the vice principal, it was the chief security officer and one other head of, the security personnel who is in charge of mounting the gate. So there has never no update for now. And we were able to speak with some of the girls that managed to escape the abduction and the one that managed to escape after being abducted. And as usual, you expect their young girls of the SS3 and SS1, their ages 14, 15. So there is this trauma and depression. The mother told us that one of the one that escaped the abduction, when she's sleeping, she woke up in shock and fear. So this is the scenario. And when you look at it from a bigger perspective, it has a wider implication on the enrollment, especially on the girl-child education into school, given the fact that Kebbi, compared to other northwestern states, has a bit higher rate of girl enrollment in school. But with this, I doubt if parents will feel safe sending their daughters to school. Just like what happened in Katsina,
Yes, indeed.
Katsina has to close all boarding schools. So similar thing is happening now. A lot of you've seen what the presidency has done, closing of female government-owned secondary schools. So it's going to affect girls' enrollment in school at a time when the Northwest has been battling, enrollment of these girls, going to parents, pleading with them. So now you have them. You take your daughter to school. The next thing, a bandit came, took her away, a 14, 12-year-old into the forest. You don't know where she eats, how she sleeps, the trauma and everything. So this is a big blow to education, not just in Kebbi, but in the entire Northwest. Right. But as at now, nothing, no any update, nothing is happening. It's just parents waiting in hope to finding their daughters.
Okay. Jamil, thank you for that. I will come back to you with a question, but I wanted to welcome into the conversation Kende Giwa, who's also an analyst. Kende, thank you for joining us this morning. Can you just tell us, how you feel about, the latest insecurity? This week has been packed with so much sadness. Can you just tell us?
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Generally speaking, the mood in the country is really down.
Kende, we are unable to hear you. We hope that your device is not muted. Kende, could you please? Okay, go ahead. I hear it's from our side. We're going to fix that. Let's see. Let's get our producers to actually give us the go-ahead before we can have you answer that question. Our apologies, but we'll fix that.
Yeah.
All right. I'm being told that you have the floor now. Kende, go ahead.
Okay, thank you for having me again. So, like I said, the mood in the country is generally sober.
Kende, apologies again. We will have to work more on your audio. It still has a problem. We are unable to hear what you're saying. But then again, let's come to Queen Natasha. Queen Natasha is the President, Faith Progress Istifadas. Queen, thank you very much for joining us. Queen, you heard what Mabai, our correspondent there in Kebbi, has just said regarding how this affects the enrollment of girls in school, noting that this is a very big issue when it comes to northern enrollment of children, specifically girls. How is this going to affect enrollment so far, or how has this affected enrollment so far, Queen?
Thank you very much. From the question you're asking, it is going to affect enrollment really bad because for 2 years down the line now and a bit further, the government have been trying, the government of the Northwest Nigeria and even the Northern Nigeria in general have been trying to bring school children, to bring children that are uneducated or out of school back to school, back to the classrooms, giving out free school uniform, tuition fees, books and all other materials. And now it is disheartening to find that schools are no longer safe for our students to learn. This is supposed to be a learning environment. This is supposed to be somewhere that is supposed to be safe for them to progress and for them to look up to their future. But it is no longer safe for them and it is no longer conducive. And a learning environment has to be conducive. So it is no longer conducive, and that alone is a reason for a lot of parents to withdraw their students out of school. As you can see, the federal government is already closing down some of these schools now for the state of these insecurity issues, because it is just going from one state to another, from Kebbi, Kwara, Niger, Nasarawa. We don't know where else is next. So I think I also support the government closing down the schools for now, so as to stabilize the insecurity issues in these schools and in the country as a whole, so we don't have reoccurring of these incidents.
All right, now, Queen, Kende, this is what we're going to do so we can have a very robust conversation. We're going to try and fix Kende's audio so we can have him join us on this conversation. So we do apologize, but let's take a break right now. It's a very timely break, however, because we're going to be switching to South Africa, where we have Cyril Ramaphosa at the G20 summit, and he's giving his speech. Let's take the visuals and let's take the audio. Let's take a listen while we try to fix the audio with our guests on this topic regarding the insecurities in Kebbi State. We'll be back.
Organize ourselves to be more focused on our core mandate. We welcome the work of the G20 Africa Expert Panel, which was led by South Africa's former Minister of Finance, Mr. Trevor Manuel. The panel argues that African efforts to accelerate productive investment require new global partnerships and strong multilateral cooperation. It calls on the G20 to support this effort by building a global policy framework that unlocks long-term finance and lower costs and investment at scale. We are also grateful for the work of the G20 Extraordinary Committee of Independent Experts on Global Inequality that was led by Professor Joseph Stiglitz, a Nobel laureate. The recommendations of the Extraordinary Committee provide a solid platform on which to launch a renewed global effort to tackle inequality. As this is the first G20 Leader Summit to be held in Africa, it carries the hopes and must reflect the aspirations of the people of this continent and of the world. We should not allow anything to diminish the value, the stature, and the impact of the first African G20 presidency. This G20 Leader Summit has a responsibility not to allow the integrity and the credibility of the G20 to be weakened. In fact, from this summit, we should have a sense that the G20 has been strengthened. We thank all delegations that have worked together with us in good faith to produce a worthy G20 outcome document for this historic leaders' meeting. The G20 underscores the value of the relevance of multilateralism. It recognizes that the challenges that we face can only be resolved through cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. The adoption of the declaration from the summit sends an important signal to the world that multilateralism can and does deliver. It sends a message of hope and solidarity across the world. It tells the world that as the leaders of the G20, we will keep fast to our solemn pledge to leave no person, no community, and no country behind. With those words, I therefore declare the G20 Leaders Summit open, and thank you. Your Excellencies, please allow me to take you through day one of the program. Session one will focus on inclusive and sustainable economic growth. This session will be followed by presentations of the recommendations of the reports of the Africa Expert Panel and the Extraordinary Committee of Independent Experts on Global Inequality. We will then have a working lunch, and this will be followed by a family photo. And I thank you for your attention and look forward to a fruitful discussion. Now, in discussions with a number of delegations here, there's been overwhelming consensus and agreement that one of the other tasks we should undertake right at the beginning is to execute the task that we have come here for principally, which is by overwhelming consensus to adopt our declaration. Now, I should precede this by remembering what a Roman philosopher called Pliny the Elder once said. He said to have said, ex Africa semper aliquid novi, meaning out of Africa there is always something new. So something new always does come out of Africa. So with that, we would like, therefore, okay. I'm told that the cameras are still on, they should be off. I don't know why that is so. With that, we would like, therefore, with the consensus that has emerged through the work that has been done over the whole year and the 130 meetings that have been held where each sector has been able to reach agreement, would like, therefore, to put
back from the G20 there. The president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, there with his opening speech. Not quite sure exactly why the cameras had to be switched off, but even if the cameras are switched off there, well, they're on here. That was a pun by Queen. She wanted me to say that. Thank you very much, Queen. I've gone and said it.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was nice when you said it.
But let's come back to the very important conversation we were having from before. In Kebbi State, only just last week, abduction of 25 schoolgirls led us to a News Central report by Jamil Mabai, whom we have had here from this morning. However, we have gone into conversation, and if you're just joining us, we have very interesting people here that are joining us for the conversation. We've got very interesting questions that we have been asking from before. However, let's jump back on that because we had some issues with our connection with Kane, and I'm hoping that we have Kane, Queen, Natasha back with us as well, and also Jamil, whom will be joining us eventually. Okay, let's make sure that we have your audio now, Kane. If you can please indicate, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me clearly?
Perfect. So, Kende, I was asking earlier, what's your take on it? Because this whole week has been a whole lot of, insecurity, and we're hearing different stories around in Kwara, and, what is your take on it, being an expert, in security analysis?
Well, thank you for having me again. The nation is quite sober because we are grappling with a wave of insecurity in the last 1 week, but it is pertinent to mention that Nigeria has been grappling with insecurity since 2009. The emergence of Boko Haram came, into full in 2009. ISWAP came in 2015. Lakurawa came in 2025, and speaking as an analyst, or from the analyst angle, or from an expert angle, I would say that we've been battling with insecurity for 20 years. It is not a new thing. There is no day, just like I always say, we work with data. The data is in the public domain. There is no day that, just to give you a bit of background and a bit of context, there is no day that there is not a killing in this country. There is no day that there is not an abduction in this country. There is no day that there is not a civil unrest in this country. So Nigeria has been grappling with a myriad of insecurity crises from 2009, when the emergence of Boko Haram, came to the country. But now we are having it, in a much more heightened, state, where everyone is now beginning to feel the heat. It's not just speaking as an analyst now or speaking as an expert. Everyone is beginning to feel the heat. Everyone is beginning to feel scared, particularly because of the areas and the location where these incidents are happening, and also, the way and manner with which these incidents are also happening. It is. Jamil was speaking quite earlier, and it was referring to the attackers as bandits. Yes, you would say they are bandits because eventually they would ask for ransom, but the style and the modus operandi of their attack feels like a jihad. It feels like terrorism. It feels like these guys are terrorists. Let's be very, very mindful with the words we use. Lakurawa terrorists, just like I said, came into 2025, and they've been unleashing mayhem in Kebbi. They've been unleashing mayhem in Sokoto. So we are not just dealing with Boko Haram and ISWAP here. We are dealing with the Mahmouda 6. We are dealing with Lakurawa. We are dealing with ISWAP. We saw how they literally slaughtered a Brigadier General in cold blood on TikTok. It's absolutely embarrassing. So from an analyst's perspective, I would say that it is not really a new situation. The data is there. We have over 30 incidents that happen in this country every day across all geopolitical zones. Right. But right now, it has become extremely heightened. Of course, with the claims of genocide, everyone is now beginning to feel the pressure. It is finally coming home, just like those in the Southwest are saying, we don't know where is next.
Kende, very interesting data that you've given us there, but something that sticks out is the definition between bandits and terrorists. Could you please give us that specific definition?
Oh, okay. From the expert's angle, one of the main reasons why bandits launch attacks is for gains, for profit. They want to make money. They perform highway robberies, they perform highway attacks, they steal, they can attack a community, and they can get into people's homes, and they can loot food items, they can loot properties, they can loot money, and it stops there for banditry. But for terrorism, it becomes ideological, it becomes, ethnic, it becomes, like we are seeing now, it becomes religious. So for terrorism, the goal is to enforce their ideology. The goal is to enforce their system on a particular, location. And if you have followed the trajectory of attacks in Nigeria, or if you follow the trajectory of assault, especially in the northeast and in the northwest, you will know that terrorist attacks different from bandits. We rarely hear that bandits attack military bases. We rarely hear that bandits attack Nigerian troops. This is what terrorists always do. They always attack the Polish people.
Kendi, one more question, Kendi.
Yeah.
One more question, Kendi. Based on data that you might have researched on, with the cases that we have had, Nasarawa, Kebbi, and also I think, where am I missing? Kwara. Now let's look at the anatomy of these attacks. Most of them have come, or at least one of them has come with a request for ransom to be paid. So that's totally commercial. That seems like banditry according to the definition that you have given. Can you state, out of these three instances, Nasarawa, Kebbi, and Kwara State, which one actually is terrorism?
Well, like I said, okay, let's start with the Kwara incident. The eventual result of the Kwara incident is that the attackers are demanding ransom. But we have videos that have surfaced online, the anatomy of the attacks, the modus operandi of the attacks. Anyone who is familiar with insecurity knows that was not banditry. And let me quickly state this. If we take a very critical and holistic look at that video of the Kwara incident, at the end of the video, we saw the attackers picking up bags of the victims. We saw the attackers picking up bags and properties of the victims. So this ransom that I eventually demanded for are not necessarily for the attackers. They are for the sponsors of the attackers. The foot soldiers, the so-called bandits or the so-called terrorists, after the attack, have already helped themselves to whatever they can lay hold, at the site of the incident. So this 100 billion, 30 million ransom, for the main kingpins or the main bandits or terrorist warlords, as to speak. But that kind of attack that happened in Kwara Church it poses a terrorism style, except we want to say that bandits are now beginning to adapt. They are now beginning to metamorphosize in the way they attack. We know that bandits are not known for attacking churches. All through the years, in recent times, terrorists have been known to attacking churches. They've been known to be attacking schools. They've been known to be attacking Nigerian army bases and military formations. Bandits majorly would attack soft targets to get money, quick abductions to get ransom. But in this case, for example, in the Kwara attack, it is a combination of banditry style and terrorism style. Then to also go into the Niger attack, where 25 students were kidnapped, it is imperative to state that the Nigerian army and the DSS received intelligence that these attacks were going to happen. The Niger state government received intelligence and all of that. But what do we really do with this intelligence? What do our authorities really do with this intelligence? Just like Jamil was saying, the authorities left the school 30 minutes before the incident happened. And it is shocking that terrorists or bandits or these attackers come into homes, come into schools, come into churches brazenly, pick up their victims, perpetrate their mayhem, perpetrate their nefarious operations, and walk brazenly back into a publicly known forest that the Nigerian army has not been able to obliterate. Now, Jamil was saying, oh, they are in the corridors of Kebbi, they are into Zamfara, and all of that. How is it difficult for the Nigerian army to obliterate terrorists and bandits that are live on social media? How is it difficult for the Nigerian army or for the Nigerian authorities to find these guys when, for example, in Isa local government of Sokoto, Bello Tuji, the most feared warlord in northwest Nigeria, has been imposing taxes on residents. How is it doing this? How is it communicating with the government? How are we establishing all of these peace pacts? We hear of peace pacts in the northwest. We hear of peace pacts in Katsina between the government and bandits or between the government and terrorists. How is all of these things happening? And we cannot suddenly, apprehend these guys. Just yesterday, a video emerged where we saw terrorists and bandits, in a particular wedding, celebrating the wedding of the daughter of one of their terrorists. How is that emerging on social media and the Nigerian government keeps saying they don't know where these terrorists are? How can terrorists come into a school or bandits come into a school, whisk away students, and Nigerian government says they don't know where they are when they actually received the intelligence that these attacks were going to happen? And lastly, closing of schools, how many schools do we really want to close? Is this a long-lasting solution? These are the questions we should be asking. When the schools reopen, just like St. Mary's School in Niger, report said that they had received prior intelligence, in Niger, that all schools should be closed. Apparently, St. Mary's, reopened their school without a go-ahead from the Niger State government, and the bandits came. So eventually, when these schools reopen, what is the Nigerian government or the Nigerian military going to do permanently to eradicate? I've always said it. Enough of engaging them in a gun battle. Enough of engaging terrorists in, we keep hearing, they chase them into the forest, but they engage them in a gun duel and they were able to rescue. No, we cannot keep doing that. All of their forests, all of their hideouts, where these guys are.
Wow.
Seem to have lost Kehinde there, but very interesting questions that he asked, and I think those questions need answers, especially the one on how many schools do you want to close down? Thank you very much for giving us those very interesting bits to go on and further this conversation. We still have Queen Natasha with us, but you were going to say Queen Celestine.
Now that he talked about the school, and since we have a student representative,
yes, indeed.
I wanted to ask Queen Natasha that, being a student representative, we see that schools are, they're the ones that often, affected and, asking to be shut down. From your interactions with students, how are they feeling, their well-being and everything? How is it affecting them generally? Natasha?
Thank you very much once again. But it's really disheartening to students, the fact that you can't go to school and can't get education. Like, we unionists and the student unionism will say education is a right and not a privilege. And this is supposed to be a right for you to be learning, for you to go to school, for you to have education. But in a sense where you can't have a conducive education, you can't go to school. Definitely it's disheartening, it is heartbreaking, and it really doesn't sit well in the society that a time will come where schools will have to be closed, for students to be home just because there is insecurity issues. And I like what Kehinde said, for how long are the schools going to be closed? And what is the assurance that when the schools reopen, there is going to be a safety, or there is going to be a safety measure for this reoccurrence not to happen again? What are the government and the security agencies doing permanently to curb these situations so as to hinder the reoccurrence of these things? Because, like you rightly said, the schools are the major targets right now. And it is not really a good one for schools to be a target for banditry. It is traumatic. It has been a very traumatic experience from, we reached out to Kebbi State. Some of our student leaders visited the schools and all of that, and visited some of the students that were in the school as at the time of this incident. And a lot of them are having a lot of traumatic experiences. Even at their homes, they are no longer safe because they always feel like, oh, this will happen again, oh, this will come again. And this is a lifetime trauma for kids, or rather for teenagers at the age of 12, 13, 15, and that to be having such experiences at their tender age. So it's not a good one at all.
Right. Okay, Natasha, thank you for that. But, before I come back to you, I think we'll join back again with our News Central correspondent, Jamil. Jamil, you reported this incident, and my question now would be, What was the risk having to go all the way there to get all this information across, the whole world, let people see what's currently happening? What was the risk and the insecurity that you faced?
It's terrible and horrific. I've been to a lot of, frontline areas, but I've never been to Kebbi terrain. That was the most scariest journey, I think.
We might have some connection issues there. We're going to wait and see if we can get Jamil back on. Jamil, I hope you can hear us. If Jamil can hear us, we will switch back to Queen Faith here. Now, Queen, regarding the students, you were telling us about, we were talking about the enrollment crisis we have in the north. Can you first of all give us that idea? What is it like for school students getting enrolled in the north? Let's get a general idea before the insecurity issues or instances that are affecting it. Is it easy for students to get enrolled in education, for education?
Okay, it has not been easy for school students to be enrolled because the North has always been known for having a lot of out-of-school children, a lot of parents not being able to fund their children's education, and at an early stage you get to find children on the road and all of that, begging and all of that. So the government in the Northwest, or rather the northern governors or government, were able to come up with the Back to School initiative, which brought about taking children back to school. With sometimes I'm from Kaduna State, I'm an indigenous of Kaduna State, so I'll use my state as an example. You'll find the government taking children back to school with no tuition fee, making provision of books, of writing materials, of adequate learning materials, just so that these students can be able to be comfortable and be able to get a conducive learning environment. So even the process alone of having to go meet the parents, convince them that, okay, your child needs to go to school, education is important, because some of those parents are not even well learned. That's why they don't see education as something that is compulsory, or rather they didn't used to see education as something that was compulsory or something that they would have wanted their kids to do. Rather, you find them trading, you find them on the streets, begging and all of that. So they have to do the Back to School initiative, reaching out to parents, enrolling these children, then providing materials for them, school uniforms, books, chairs, tables, boards, and all of that. So if you go to the north before this incident, you find out that our government schools are really filled with students, because the governments have been trying all they could so that these students could go back to school. So you find out that our school fee here in the north is very, very, very affordable, because you find that these government schools are charging like as low as 3,000, 5,000, and maybe it's just for maybe report card, this, that. But every other time, the books, the school uniforms, and all of that are being provided just for the students to be able to have education.
Okay, thank you, Faith. I think we have Jamil back. Jamil, if you can hear me, can you just tell us again, just run through the insecurity and the risk that you went through having to, get this report across, across to us?
Earlier, it was the most terrific and horrifying journey. Why? Because when you look at Kebbi in particular, Kebbi doesn't have a bandit camp, compared to what we have in Zamfara and other, frontline states. But what happened is Kebbi is surrounded by states that are having insecurity problem. So they are put in the middle. So before you access Kebbi, you have to pass through these bandit-infested areas. If you're going through Zamfara Anchor territory, which is the most dangerous and shorter, it's the most dangerous but shorter. Or you take through Sokoto, then you go to Kebbi. That also, there is a presence of the emergence of this Lakra movement that are stationed there. So, and because of the timing, we took the Anchor road. Immediately after Anchor, that was when the horrific, experience started. We got to a town, I couldn't remember the town. We saw what I used to see in movies, like in Congo or what have you, a man, heads of men beheaded and put on a stake. You understand? So these were the kind of images we went through. As for me, I'm used to going to areas like that. But with my cameraman, this was his first experience, and he was terrified. The people inside were terrified. So the journey is catastrophic. One. Two, when you look at the infrastructure, there is a total disconnection between, government providing infrastructure in terms of good road network to these areas. Let me tell you something. The community where the incidents happened is 31 kilometers to Zulu local government. That is Kebbi, the Emirate. But it took 3 hours or 4 hours to reach that axis because of the total, poor road network. So you can imagine, even if security forces want to render emergency or respond to SOS calls, you understand, they cannot, even if you cannot even drive more than 20 to 30 kilometers. They cannot meet and render assistance. So there is a complete, total, the roads are in total deplorable condition. One. Two, there is complete absence of electricity, both in Zulu local government and the Maga. Even telecommunication have resorted to using solar power as the means of, providing, charging or powering their devices. So once it's darker, they have adjusted the energy network to make causes a problem. If you are moving and somebody is walking beside you, you can never identify or see that person because the area is somehow, surrounded by rocks, deep forest. So you don't know who is what. So it's easier for bandits to penetrate and move without being detected. And I tell you, no security personnel can dare enter that forest in that darkness because the bandits know the terrain better. They have more more firepower than the army or whatsoever forces that is being deployed in that region. So there is no way nobody risks his life. And the one thing we've been, also is most of the security people there, especially the military, the soldiers, are not from that axis. And Kebbi State has no enforced or trained vigilante system like in Zamfara and Katsina. So there is no any alternative to provide first aid, defensive mechanism. So it's easier for crime to be sustained and be carried out in the way it happened in Kebbi. Why? Because the road network, it's an advantage to the bandits, while it's advantage to security forces and people. Jamil, it's easier for bandits.
Oh, Jamil. I hope we still have Jamil there. I wanted to ask something. Jamil, you said something about defense and it being just, you only have just no alternative to defense. However, what about deterrence? What about the fact that these soldiers actually had information about the attack from before, but they eventually disappeared? Can you talk us through that? What exactly happened there? How come we saw them at the school from before? We even have notes that they actually took pictures before leaving, and then just soon after there was that attack. Jamil, are you there with us? Oh dear, I'm being told that Jamil has issues with the connection. Queen, which Queen would I ask? Queen, do you have another question for Queen, if you don't mind?
I think I'm good.
Well, I do have one question for you, Queen. Queen, with the situation as it is now, or rather Faith, let me call you Faith from now on so I don't have that mistaken identity. Faith, as the situation is right now, what are we looking at for education, especially in places like Kebbi State? Now, the authorities are asking schools to close down. How bad does this make the situation for education?
Thank you very much once again. It makes the situation bad. Okay, I can see that you've done the correction. So thank you very much for that. It makes the situation very bad and it makes education very poor in the northern Nigeria because education is something that is very important. So it is very pertinent to find that education is going to decrease so much in the north, because now when you start finding that these schools are not safe and the school is being closed for secondary school, and then we have only higher institutions being opened, who are those people that are going to proceed from the secondary schools and be the next phase of students in the higher institutions and be the next phase of the future in time to come? There are no people, there is nobody. And so on that note, it makes these parents to feel like, oh, this school is no longer safe for my kids anymore. So on that note, just come back and learn trade. Come back and go to the farm. Come back and go get married. Like earlier this month, I did a campaign against early marriage, to end early marriage, for students to be able, for children rather, or teenagers, to be able to have a sufficient knowledge, education, and have developed their poverty before going into marriage, for them to be able to know their left from their right, how to take care of themselves, and how to take care of any offspring they are going to produce before going into marriage. But now where they don't have the access to education, definitely the next thing they'll resolute to is trading and marriage, and the younger ones going back into the streets. And we don't really hope for that. So we're really urging to the government and the security agents to provide permanent solutions to these things. That's why I said earlier, it's not about closing down the school. It's about providing solutions that when the schools reopen, that this won't happen again, won't have reoccurrence of this incident. So I think the National Female Student Association of Nigeria, like from the press release I did earlier this week, we're urging government to find preferred solutions and permanent solutions for our safety, especially in our schools.
All right, then.
Especially in our various institutions of learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Faith, for joining and giving us, telling us how students are feeling right now in the midst of all the insecurity. And Jamil, of course, thank you so much for the report. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And now we're crossing over back to South Africa, the G20 summit. And of course, this year arrives at a time of deep global uncertainty. Conflicts are reshaping alliances, economies are under pressure, and the balance of power is shifting in unpredictable ways. In the middle of all this, African leaders have stepped into the room with a clearer voice and stronger expectations than ever before. The conversation is no longer about Africa waiting to be invited. It is now about Africa demanding a seat, setting an agenda, and pushing for global economic reforms that reflect the realities on the continent. From financial restructuring, climate financing, Africa's presence at the G20 carried a weight the world could not ignore.
Joining us from South Africa currently, Bongani Sisiba. Now, Bongani has been bringing us updates since early this morning, and this will be no different. Bongani, we have seen the South African president give his speech there. We don't know why he asked for the cameras to be switched off. Maybe you can give us an update as to what happened after we didn't see from after he gave that speech.
Yes, certainly, Masino. A very good morning to you once again. On that, we also don't know why the cameras were switched off, because sound just went mute, and we don't know what really happened. But I can say now that the G20 summit has been officially opened with President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about how African countries are caught up in debt, and this weakens their credibility. He also spoke about minerals in Africa that are being extracted by developed countries, and Africans are not getting anything from their resources. He also thanked the partners that helped South Africa for the G20 to make this happen. And also he said that as South Africa, as the G20 presidents ends, all African countries have been included, and this is not only for South Africa, but for African countries. But let me just quickly bring in a guest just to take us through some of what President Cyril Ramaphosa said and how important it is for Africa to hold such an event. Good afternoon, ma'am, and thank you for joining us here at News Central TV. President Cyril Ramaphosa's speech, he spoke mainly about African resources, how some African resources, rather, how it's being extracted to other countries, and Africa is not gaining. Also, what has been your takeaway on his speech?
So the first thing is that industrialization, as he's mentioned, has got to be a key component of Africa's reform, and Africa coming out of the economic quagmire it has been for too many decades. I think that if we don't process and reform the value chains of our minerals, we will remain with more than 65 million Africans in poverty. We'll remain seeing that we export in the main a large part of our minerals, but the value is derived by those who process those goods. So the setting up of infrastructure, ensuring that the value chains and the financing system enables the development of those minerals is critical. So I think in his speech, he did mention of the critical pillars that will come out of this G20 for Africa in particular, is that there must be fairer trade, and there must be instances where we see the development of the industrial capacity and capabilities of African nations.
He emphasized that Africa will not be bullied. I guess he was talking about the U.S. Has been bullying South Africa.
So the multilateralism that we see from these type of international forums, where we see the WTO, the IMF, and we also see what we are now in the G20 summit, are very important for international cooperation and finding and setting norms, rules of engagement between countries, versus a polarized situation where you're seeing interests, particularly of blocs, which are very diverse and at times may not be favorable to everyone. So I think the issue of cooperation, South Africa has come out to say equality, solidarity, and sustainability are the three key themes. And I think that multilateralism is underpinned by cooperation rather than domination. So we want to see more cooperation, we want to see consensus. You may not get that this year, but you are coming out with several statements and issues that will be raised by the different nations and member states that are represented here, which are favorable.
Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, indeed, Africa needs to take care of their resources. But my colleague Israel is also standing on the other side. Let me bring also Israel just to speak to us about President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking at length. But one thing that he emphasized is about African countries, Nigeria also included. How important is it for Nigeria to be part of the G20?
It is absolutely important for Nigeria to be part of this. There's a whole lot of global issues that we need to focus on, and Nigeria is present here. A while back we saw Vice President Kassim Shettima, on the screen. He arrived just late last night, and he's here as well with the Nigerian delegation to look at issues that are affecting the global south, which Nigeria is also a part of, and lots of cooperation and bilateral issues as well. Multilateralism, it's very, very, very key, because no nation is an island. Everyone needs to cooperate, which is something that President Ramaphosa, the chair of the summit, has also emphasized today, that they must go ahead and build bridges rather than burn all of those bridges. And one thing that will be happening again today, Bangani, is the fact that there will be two sessions today. As we can see right now, the media has been shut out from the live stream. No one can see what's happening and hear what's happening in there right now, but they will be addressing us much later to let us know what they have come up with. There are two sessions today, and the first one here will focus on inclusive and sustainable economic growth, leaving no one behind, building our economies, the role of trade, financing for development, and the debt burden. Speaking about the debt burden, that is one issue that a lot of people here have been talking about, and this is one issue that some African countries, they are actually making money, but you find that they are financing debts. So now the question right now is, how can these African countries come together, which is what they're proposing, come together. When they want to go ahead and borrow and get loans, there has to be on very, very good terms. And this is what they are proposing here at the G20 summit. So much will still be coming out of this as we get more information from the first and the second session today. Bongi?
Yes, definitely, Israel. Will continue to bring you updates from the G20 summit here in Nazareth. It's now back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Bugani and Israel, for the update. We will follow up since the G20 is still going on, but now we'll go on a short break. When we return, we have our last conversation within the hour. Stay tuned.
You're welcome once again. It's our final conversation this morning, and it's going to be very exciting. Queenie's already chuckling somewhere in the wings, but I'll let you know exactly why. Now, television has always been more than entertainment. It has been a witness in the room, a place where democratic conversations have taken shape and where the public found clarity in moments of national tension. Now, long before social media arrived with its noise, TV stood as the trusted town square, where Nigerians gathered to understand their world. It shaped public consciousness and helped hold leaders accountable. Those early days gave us the golden age of news reportage. Veteran broadcasters carved out a culture of integrity, balance, and fearless storytelling. Their commitments to the truth laid the path for the current generation and kept television at the center of credible public opinion. Even today, with the rise of digital platforms, people still return to TV when they need verified information and calm analysis, especially when democracy is on the line.
Of course, this morning we're joined by a voice who understands this journey better than most. Mr. Tokunbo Ojekunle, I hope I got that there. He's a veteran broadcaster whose work has helped to define the standards we still follow today. And it is, I'm blushing.
Yeah.
Same here.
I'm
blushing.
It's glad to have you here. Let me let them know exactly what was happening before we came on air. Queen was eager to take one of the bits here, and I'm like, no, it has to be me. And then she says, that's the excitement that you actually don't see on air. There's that excitement behind the cameras when the cameras aren't on us. It's something we do with passion. But I don't think that we do it with as much passion as the veterans did it. And here with us we have one of such people.
With little or not as much visuals and coverage as we do now.
Yeah, exactly. But they were yet very passionate about it. Yes, sir, we're talking about you.
Who wrote the script? Who designed the script?
This is organic. This is organic.
I must confess, I got glued at the reception.
Oh.
And I'm not saying it because I'm not a member of the house, but I have friends here. But what I've seen today is actual broadcasting at its best.
Oh, thank you very much, sir, coming from you.
From the inside of the North Central states, you took me out to South Africa, you brought me back again, and that's incredibly good.
It is indeed.
Thank you.
And I was wondering, when are we going to talk about TV now? About TV,
well, here we are.
Well, really interesting, you guys are. And you guys believe you're 10 steps ahead of us somehow. Oh, everywhere. Think about it. The technology is different.
Right.
The pattern is different. And we had an idea in the past where we got confused at a point when the influx of foreign programming and cultures came in. Television stations found it difficult to know what exactly to do. Are we going to keep up the local traditional trend? Whereas the hip hop trends was already everywhere. So some people who owned broadcasting organizations, television particularly, decided to now split into two ideas. That was why we could have NTA Channel 2 and NTA Natural. NTA Channel 2 did all it could to keep up to the trends of the hip-hop. The programming was excellent, but we didn't realize that, would I say it was dangerous then, because most of the kids, tend to lose the trends of culture, tradition. And it took us a long time to get it back.
Well, eventually you did, and that's led us here now, where we see a very interesting use of television as a tool for democracy.
Yeah.
There's so many opinions that are being voiced on television, whether it's those of the people or those of even individual broadcasters. And we've seen a change in how broadcast has come from then till now. We've seen people highly opinionated, yet professionals, give their very credible and maybe sometimes colored opinion on television. There's been that change. There's been that shift. There's been that shift in the kind of followership that you also get as a personality on television. Now, I'm wondering how and if this is a good thing for democracy, if this is a good thing for television as a tool itself, where the nuances can be, they're so subjective. What do you think about this?
You know, quite a good observation. In our times, our 40 times, don't think I'm a Methuselah, but really and truly, what we went through was I personally engaged in having experiences on both ways, government and the private. That rules the space in Nigeria. Television, for example, didn't have that clot of defocusing until government did something in the 70s, when you have the likes of AIT brand, Common, okay? I mentioned one or two brands as well. And the problem we had then was based entirely on not only professionals, but on ownership. The ownership structures then determine the scale. You know, you can't work somewhere and you don't do what you've been asked to do. Where you think you could, you know, gravitate into doing what you wanted to do, you will know after a while that doesn't suit you. Something is wrong somewhere. So the problems were so enormous. Government also didn't know exactly how to handle it. And so, and Nigeria is highly politicized. The structures there are heavy. Parties everywhere. You would be in a studio someday and your news is changing. Your guests are changing. Somebody is lined up at the hour and all of a sudden you don't see the person, somebody else what you see. Somebody pulls the trigger from outside. And that was how we grew in the field. It was very confusing. But we're grateful to a few people who had the effrontery to face the projects head on.
Right.
And one other thing that affected the trend was bad was the incursion of the military regimes. The interregnums we had, they actually saw the media as they owned them, including the furniture. And I've said this before, I don't know if I said it here, that it was very scary then. And whenever you spoke of changing patterns of military of government, I don't want to mention the COUP, but don't bother to mention it for me. Well, those times, you would be here and all of a sudden you will see jackboots walking.
I heard of those
so,
times.
yeah, I've been reading news before and suddenly they're walking.
So it was risky business being in the media generally?
Very risky. So it affected the structures, affected the interests of other people. Parents were very jittery. You say you want to be a journalist, they're looking at you, are you okay? You know? And these things had a very sore point in our lives. It wasn't good. And now when you look back at what happened then and what we're seeing now, I'm still telling you that there's some management still going on, some control still going on.
I've got a question for you on that one.
The elements are very good. But some daring stations, I want to say you are, but let's go on, would go to the point of investigative journalism.
Yes, we must.
Which is key at this point.
Yeah.
And I love the way you fact-check things. Your fact-checking process also helps to develop a credibility.
Right.
Credible stands in the minds of the people.
Right.
And that's the truth. I'm not talking about this station alone, I'm talking about other stations alone who have actually thought through things differently and seen the need to also pattern it the way it should go.
Right.
But you have the space now fighting against you, the social space.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So, you know, it's amazing that you're here with us, having to see what the golden age of TV was
and
back
what is
then, you know. So I'm sure that there were I'm sure that there were some values that defined, you know, your era and the zeal and, you know, the happiness you had just having to talk about what's happening in your country, around the globe, and even having to do all that, knowing full well that there were some other challenges that was beyond your control. Now, can you share with us what were those values that you think, in as much as we have AI now and we have media and anybody can just post anything of what's happening and you follow through, what are those values that you think we need to hold on to up until now, just to make sure that what we are reporting is still as credible as back in the golden years?
You don't say olden years. It's not that
golden.
Golden. Golden is good.
Well, don't deceive yourselves, you know. I come from there, right?
We'll stick with golden.
She's right, we use golden. I like that. Now, you see, the problem is this. It's not really a problem. When you're asked to do what you love doing best from the inside of you, as a professional, and you are not given the right equipment. Despite that, you are creative. There's so many creative programs back in the day. And when I look at them and I measure them to what we have now, okay, not bad, but I said, oh, if only we had cameras that could do 10 things at the same time within a space of the box office. And those things are genuinely being done. Okay, I can see them now, and somebody took to the studio the other time, and I said, wow, the space was just about half of this place, but everything was in place. And I said to him, I said, if only this situation happened then, were available then, people would be masters of the game. Yeah. So we had commitment, we had loyalty, we had discipline. Discipline in area of, you know, this is your job, go and get it done. The man doesn't know how you're going to do it, you just have to do it. And for some people who went through the rough times, the rough edges where, I'm going to talk about it.
Yes, please.
Elements of emotional intelligence value. Today, the thriving entrepreneurs in this business of the media are people with high emotional intelligence value, who understand that it's not only an EI thing, it's also a social and environmental, impact thing. Right. You have a boss who sees you for the first day and looks at you and goes to your supervisor, please make sure she's not on the news today. Why? He saw you this morning and sensed something was wrong. He wasn't feeling you as feel. Yes. And he ends up saying, there is something wrong with her today. So go to your boss, make sure she's not on the news today. And by the way, ask her to see me. Are you rushing to see your boss? And he said, I'm going on the news now. No, you're not taking the news. This person is taking, but sit down. His first openings, the first question he asks you, you are likely to break down. Do you understand? So there was no gap at all. So those things I saw the way past, they were so unique. It wasn't about the money, yet it was about the money. So if those things had been, we could revisit those times, a lot of people at a particular age will still be practicing now. But I must shock you that some establishments, including radio, don't have professionals. They have professionals working with them, but these professionals are not pensionable. If you work somewhere and you don't think of what's coming to my life after now, you tend to just come in basically and do what you want and go home. No fun. But I can see you guys and I say, wow, this is love. This is everything coming together. Even when your boss has forgotten that you should have a prep meeting for tomorrow's show, you are reminding him or her.
Yeah.
Where are you?
But that is us, isn't it? I mean, like yesterday when we were looking for you on the group meeting.
You found me.
No, I'm not here to raise your shoulders, but you can fly by yourself. Because I can see it. Anybody who has a passion for television, radio, when you see professionals and practitioners working, you will know if there's love. You will know if there's some commitment around that. You will know if it's just casual.
Let's talk about some of the detailed nuances of old television and how it's been transmitted into our modern day television. Let's talk about shows like from 1980, the old Balamila show. Now, I refer to that show because even if it started the year after I was born, I was still quite, even as a young chap, very enthralled by it.
Balamila started the year after you were born.
Yeah, that's 1982. I was born in 1981.
Are you serious about that?
Yes.
Okay, fine. I'm coming back to that.
All
Remind me, please.
Golden years.
Golden years, yeah.
Golden years, huh?
Golden years.
He's trying to rope me into the golden years too.
No. You walked in by yourself.
I see what you're trying to do there, sir. However, there was a very interesting format that he had where satire was a big tool. Satire, however, well, we saw that in the old NTA news line where we had the likes of Yinka Craig, we had the Franco Lise, I think, who was it? Patrick Oke, exactly. And satire continued, but after a while, it kind of like we didn't see satire anymore. Satire in itself is a great tool for democracy because it's a way of passing the information, digest format. While they're laughing, you put in the truth there, and then they consume it. It's easier than taking the doom and gloom of every single day when it comes 9 o'clock and it's the newsreel. But we've also seen currently a very heavy use of straight line jacket news delivery, where people even broadcast an opinion and they're able to pass those opinion, and it can or might not taint people's views because we have such a mass audience, and we have to have responsibility. When people pass these information, straight jacket, this is my opinion and I think you should take it. I'm not sure about how good or how according to the ethics of broadcasting, where that stands. But satire, on the other hand, is a tool that you could use to pass opinion, but yet it's still couched in humor. What's your take on satire currently, as against what it was from the days of Balamila?
I love this. I love this sequence. For me, it's great. You're taking me back memory lane. The news line those days, I wasn't working with them, but from an angle of where we saw everything, and we were colleagues and friends, we knew why the news sign took that shape. The news delivery had been too straight and too serious. You sit down here, he sits down here, your scripts are there. And by the way, teleprompting wasn't very common. So, you know, and sometimes you miss your scripts, but come on, the show goes on. But leave, that's another story. But it brings to my mind the fact that somebody at the NTA then was thinking, because they couldn't even sell anything on the news. They couldn't sell much. But when the newsline started, they started infusing book launches. It wasn't free, they paid.
Became a magazine
weddings,
show.
Became a magazine show. Thank you. And it worked. And then you had two witty friends doing the show. And there was a chemistry. And so everybody would want to see, and it was a novel. It was a novel idea. They hadn't seen that before. So it came up. Now, that also started affecting other entertainment programs. And you found people like Atalade coming with Atalade show, the Bandit show.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of the Bandit show.
She hasn't.
It's not moi, it's him, right? This time it's him. Now, the Bandit show, the Balamila show was something very great. And the man was great as well as a presenter. He knew you had to be widely read, you know, read regularly, and you could see the fun in everything. There was fun in music. Fela's Zombie was fun, but they didn't take it well. But it was fun. You could see other programs just came out, and there are so many.
There was an evolution of sorts.
Masquerade came.
Yes.
You see, they were all adding fun to viewership.
Right.
It was not. We was not sit down for what about till about 6 o'clock. It's all show. The show is over. TV is over for the day, and then that's end. 4 to around 6 or so is all gone. Radio could be active a little bit, but they were still doing something. Okay, where music was a passion for radio. Forget it. Slick presenters who could do magic, but for TV they started breaking into drama, and you had the great producers of time, the Jamil Dumosus, you know, and they were turning things out, and they were working creatively every second of the day, and you'd love to be.
Do we see that diversity now, however?
No,
or are we just all hung up on news, and strict reportage?
Very good question. Let me see. The news has changed gradually.
Okay.
It has to be informal, though. yet loaded with content.
Okay.
You have to be on the spot where things are happening. If your outfit is not where it's happening, it's not there. You are actually making the news. You are creating the news with the facts on the table. And you are not lifting the news from any other source. Like, you did something today, you took us to North. I'm still talking about that North guy. And the guy who was there, well, you know he knows the terrain.
Yes, he does. Jamil
So his
does.
story was real.
Yeah.
And everybody would have loved to watch it. This is great. Well, I would need a prompter to remind me that this is coming up tomorrow. We will be here, we'll be there, we'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the only
We will
thing I
definitely
found.
be everywhere in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
We're absolutely working on that because we have a motto here for fearless reporting. And just before Jamil, we actually had Bernard in Kwara State at the scene of the church kidnapping.
I saw that.
We're trying to hold up our end.
So you make the news, you narrate the news, you tell the news as story. But it's yours.
Yes, indeed.
You own it.
Right.
You own it.
It's unfortunate that we're almost at the end of the show.
Yes, and
we do
before
have
you go back to your golden years.
Tell them to extend it.
Unfortunately, we might not be able to.
Okay,
but thank you for the very interesting bits that you've given us in the comparison between now and then. It's always fantastic having you here. Queen, I'll tell you the story between myself and Mr. Ojekunle here after the show because there's not enough time.
You tell me.
However, we did go out on the streets.
Don't say that story again.
We did go out on the streets. Well, not on the streets. We took opinion from people on World Television Day 2025. And we asked Nigerians what television means to them today and whether it still plays a central role in shaping public opinion. That's how we're going to leave you today with myself, Queen Celestine, and of course Mr. Tokunbo Ojekunle here. No other person honored. I'm not honored enough. I mean, this is an honor to have him say goodbye with us on the show here today. But let's check the Vox Pop out with our very interesting input from everyone that we met and on that very interesting question. Until tomorrow, however, and after that, it's goodbye from us. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Has impacted my life through keeping me informed. It has helped me know what is happening in different parts of the country without being in a particular place.
A lot of benefits we get from watching television for education, information, and also for entertainment. So I don't think television should be limited to only education or information. Entertainment is also very important in our lives as human beings. You need to distress, you need to chill, you need to make yourself happy.
On social media, you're able to comment, repost, do all sorts. But on television, hardly do you have to like call in and do all sorts of things. So social media is really taking so much of our time, and there are lots of engagement more on social media compared to how it is on television.
So I prefer streaming, reason being that, I could use my phone. I could also use my phone to stream, and I could do other things as well while streaming. But then when it's on TV, you're just on one spot.
I think television knows how to teach kids a lot of cultural things, because when I was growing up, I watched programs like Tales by Moonlight and also some soap operas that were culturally inclined to help groom kids growing up, because these are the kind of things that we watch, and as children we get to learn a lot from what we see on TV. So culturally, I think TV has a major role to play in shaping a child's life.
As someone that grew up watching a lot of television programs with her siblings and parents, I learned a lot about other people's culture, about unity and diversity, about the continent of Africa and the world at large. So I feel like television is actually a great avenue to learn about so many cultures, so many traditions, and so many topics that maybe you're not taught in school.
When I was growing up, there's so much to learn. You learn about Nigeria, you learn about everything, even everything about the world, you learn it. So television has so much to offer, not just for entertainment, not just for news, and they have so much engagement. They have so much of things in different aspects that you can learn so much about.
I'll say television has actually done a lot to, you know, educating people, creating awareness for entertainment and other things. So you can just, you know, hop on your TV and get to enjoy yourself with your family members, your friends, you know. So it has really done a lot, even in terms of education, right? It helps. There's some specific shows where you get, you know, educated, you get to learn new things. So I think the invention of television has its positive side and it also has its negative side.
You see programs like Tales by Moonlight, soap operas like Maybe Things Fall Apart, some kiddie shows, a lot of kiddie shows, Kiddie Vision 101, a lot of those kind of programs. It will help in teaching positive lessons to kids, not what we are seeing on TV these days, because there's a whole lot of nudity, there's a whole lot of, permit me to use the word, crap that we show on TV these days, which is not even good for kids to see. But for me to get TV back to being viewed as I viewed it when I was a kid, I like them to bring back all of those kiddie shows, then TV will be what it used to be.
Happy World